Chapter 3278. Yi Qing Luo opened the pet space. Not only Qi Yan and Shi Ju also ran out from the pet space. After Qi ran out, its snow-white body pounced onto the weeds in front of it. Its four legs faced the sky, revealing its snow-white belly. That furry tiger head was still swaying back and forth. Its size was the size of a normal tiger, but Chi-Chi's action of pouncing on the grass. It was like a snow-white cat, acting cute and acting coquettishly. Yi Qing Luo indicated that her blood tank was already empty. Phew! There was a loud sound of wings flapping in his ears. Yi Qing Luo wiped the blood on her nose as she followed the sound and looked up into the sky. Between the dense branches was the dark blue sky. A bright and dazzling red glow soared in the sky, moving swiftly, like a free bird flying in the sky. She could tell. Qi Yan's mood was delighted. The two sacred beasts were so happy in this place. Yi Qing Luo's vision shifted onto Shi Ju. Shi Ju's four legs stretched out, lying on the ground. Perhaps it noticed Yi Qing Luo's gaze. It swayed its leopard head, blinking its brown eyes, looking extremely adorable. Although Shi Ju's performance wasn't like Qi and Qi Yan, who were so excited that they completely released their nature. But from its relaxed and contented posture, it could be seen. It also liked this forbidden area very much. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly at Shi Ju. Suddenly, her eyes flashed, as if there was something sparkling, flashed past her eyes. Yi Qing Luo half squatted down, got close to Shi Ju's side, and stretched out her hand towards it. Shi Ju's claws crawled forward on the ground, rubbing its smooth head into Yi Qing Luo's palm. The minute it got close, on its head, Yi Qing Luo saw the sparkling and translucent thing earlier. Her palm came into contact with a piece of ice cold. Under the black fur on Shi Ju's head, there was a jade-green sparkling pearl nestled in it. When Yi Qing Luo touched the pearl, on the pearl, a jade-green light flashed past. This is... Yi Qing Luo brushed aside the black fur on Shi Ju's head as she asked puzzledly. On Shi Ju's head, there was not this jade-colored pearl in the past. That's a soul pearl formed from the black tortoise's half-soul. When Qi heard its master's voice, it rolled up from the ground and took light and quick steps as it jogged to Yi Qing Luo's side. Qi leaned against Yi Qing Luo's leg and fell onto the ground again. The crisp little voice continued. The atmosphere here is very friendly to us beasts. If we stay here longer, Qi-Chi's power will be even stronger than before. Qi raised its head proudly, its tiger-like eyes filled with pride. The black tortoise half-soul must have felt the aura here, so it specially condensed into a soul pearl and followed Shi Ju out. So it was the black tortoise. Yi Qing Luo nodded thoughtfully. No wonder those stupid humans say that this place is so magical. The red flame hovering in the sky, I don't know when, stood on a thick branch. Its sharp red beak slowly stroked the brilliant phoenix feathers on its body. That's right, the atmosphere here, to us beasts, is the best form of recuperation and advancement, but to humans it's a fatal injury. Qi nodded its furry head adorably. Fatal injury? Chapter 3279. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and touched her chest. Here, the aura condensed in the air, and that special power is indeed very strange. But it doesn't seem to resist me. At least, here, she didn't feel any fatal injury. Qi Yan glanced at her proudly and immediately snorted arrogantly. If it wasn't because you contracted with this sacred beast and little white, you would have been swallowed by the power here the first time you stepped in here. Yi Qing Luo rarely coaxed. Yes, thanks to you and Qi. Qi Yan got Yi Qing Luo's response, and his long neck was even more arrogant. Yi Qing Luo touched Qi-Chi's head and immediately stood up. She looked around, slowly opened her arms, and closed her eyes. She slowly operated the profound jade heart in her body, bit by bit, releasing the power of the profound jade heart. The red profound light, like a red streamer, faintly flashed around Yi Qing Luo. She released the profound energy, and the power condensed in the air of this forbidden area. It was extremely harmonious. There was no feeling of swallowing or chasing. Yi Qing Luo withdrew her profound energy, and the arc of her lips slowly deepened. When she heard about the forbidden area, Yi Qing Luo already had a guess in her heart. Just now the conversation between Qi Yan and Qi Qi made her more certain of the guess in her heart. And now, she had personally tested the compatibility between herself and the power that Qi Yan had mentioned. She had already confirmed her guess. Choosing to come to the forbidden area was indeed the right choice. At the entrance, she sat quietly for about half an incense stick of time. Yi Qing Luo stood up and was about to call a few of her companions to go deeper. But when her line of sight passed by Shiju, the words that she wanted to say were stuck in her throat. Shiju drooped its head. Its chin rested on its front paws, its leopard body slightly curled up. Its dark brown eyes stared unblinkingly in a certain direction in the depths of the dense jungle. That look was completely different from the usual cute leopard image. Its whole body was shrouded in a thick sense of desolation. Desolation, this kind of emotion should not appear on a young leopard beast. Wasn't it fine just now? Yi Qing Luo took quick steps forward and squatted down beside Shiju as her little hand caressed the fur on its back. "Little Ju'er, what's the matter?" It sensed its master's aura. Shiju merely twisted its leopard head and took a look at Yi Qing Luo before staring blankly towards the front. He still had that desolate look on his face. Yi Qing Luo's actions became gentler. She gently asked a few questions. Shiju had no intention of responding. Every time, he would turn his head to look at her, then stare blankly ahead. Yi Qing Luo and Shiju's conversation also attracted Qi Qi and Qi Yan's attention. It must be missing its family. After the scarlet flames circled one round, it landed on the ground beside Yi Qing Luo. After all, it's still a cub. After leaving its kin for so long, it will definitely miss them. Did it miss its mother? Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned. He immediately understood. The lush foliage here was indeed very different from the magical beast forest. After seeing the environment here, Shiju would inevitably recall the days when he was with his mother. Yi Qing Luo gently patted Shiju's head. Qi Yan, and Qi Qi, no matter how much they stayed by its side, it ultimately couldn't be compared to the feeling of being with the mother beast. Asterisk. Chapter 3280. Regarding this, Yi Qing Luo didn't know how to comfort it. Only when one person, 3 beasts, and 1 soul bead entered the depths of the forbidden grounds, she accompanied Shiju. Just like this, they went deeper. Along the way, there were no accidents or thrilling incidents. There was no sight of any other living creatures. Could it be? In the East Continent, for the past hundreds of years, this forbidden grounds had been spread like a legend. The reason why no cultivator was able to leave this place alive. Not because of how dangerous the forbidden grounds was, just because the energy and aura here was fatal to humans. Those who entered the forbidden grounds not died under the danger, but died under this special energy? No. Impossible. This was a forbidden ground with special energy. It was absolutely not as simple as it looked on the surface. There was a high possibility that this was the calm before the storm. Yi Qing Luo didn't let down her guard because of this. The facts proved that Yi Qing Luo's guess was right. Just as 1 person and 3 beasts were about to reach the depths of the forbidden grounds, she stopped in her tracks. The 3 little fellows beside her also held their breaths. This was a continuous stretch of dense forest. As far as the eye could see, there were large patches of green. From time to time, a breeze blew past. It was very clear. The smell of the forest was brought along with the wind, and at this moment the smell brought along by the breeze. It was no longer the smell of nature, but the smell of blood, a very strong smell of blood. Not only that, the surrounding air also gradually changed. It was tainted with an obvious austere and dangerous atmosphere. Yi Qing Luo's perception was very high. After smelling the strange atmosphere in the air, she immediately sensed the dangerous atmosphere in the surroundings. She congealed her senses and used her mental power through the blood contract with the war pet. She said solemnly, "You all adjust your body shape and hide on me first." The three little fellows didn't hesitate at all. Even Chiao Jiao, who usually liked to sing a different tune, also cooperated and turned into a magpie-sized red bird, shrinking on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. When the three little fellows had just turned into a palm size and nested on Yi Qing Luo's body, Yi Qing Luo's ears suddenly twitched as her expression congealed slightly. Roar! A deafening howl of a wild beast was heard. That sound couldn't tell what kind of wild beast it was. It was as if the entire ground of the forest had been shaken a few times. In the blink of an eye, the howl was already very close. Almost reflexively, Yi Qing Luo moved her feet and displayed her footwork. Boom! Yi Qing Luo could clearly feel that the ground beneath her feet seemed to have cracked. When he looked up again, he looked at the place where she had been standing. It was already in ruins. Flashes of lightning were still flowing. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as she carefully sized up the lightning on the ruins. What is this thing? How could it cause such great destruction? By the time Yi Qing Luo saw clearly what was revealed after the billowing smoke and dust dispersed, she couldn't help but drew in a breath of cold air. They saw. At the center of the ruins was a beast with 4 limbs on the ground. Its entire body was covered in green fur that looked like sharp blades, and electricity flowed through its body. That beast was even bigger than Chi-Chi's combat form. The reason why people couldn't tell what kind of beast it was that beast looked like a bear, but it wasn't a bear at the same time. It looked like a lion. Chapter 3281. That's right. This beast not only looked so unrecognizable, it also had an extra eye. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but think of Erling Shin's howling celestial dog. However, the howling celestial dog looked much better than this beast. This was the first time Yi Qing Luo saw this kind of beast. From the aura of the beast and the murderous intent in its 3 vicious eyes, it came with bad intentions. The first creature she met in the forbidden area. But it was a hostile relationship. Yi Qing Luo sighed. She didn't even know what kind of beast it was. She didn't know how many other unknown beasts there were in the forbidden area. If they really wanted to fight, then she might not be able to take advantage. Here, there is such a beast. Qi Yan's voice came from between the hair. Yi Qing Luo immediately asked, "Do you know what kind of beast it is?" Qi Yan's tone was dignified. Generally speaking, ordinary beasts, after seeing this sacred beast and Little White, will be deterred by the majesty of the sacred beast and will definitely not dare to come forward and find trouble with you. But this beast is different. Qi Yan explained. This is a variant of the magical beast. We call it demonic beast. It is similar to the meaning of falling into the devil's way. This demonic beast is the devil's way of the magical beast. Demonic beast? Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. How can there be a demonic beast here? Wasn't the aura in the forbidden area the best atmosphere for magical beasts to recuperate and advance? How could it breed a demonic beast? Qi Yan shook its head. Its tone became heavier. If it is an ordinary demonic beast, it is easy for you to deal with it. But what's worse is that this demonic beast happens to be the most powerful and fast among the demonic beasts. 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast. Hearing this name, Chi-Chi exclaimed, 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast? There is actually a 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast here. Even a silly little guy like Chi-Chi had heard of the name 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast. How confident are you two against the three-eyes heavenly beast? Yi Qing Luo asked doubtfully. This question immediately made Qi Yan angry. Stupid human, are you questioning the strength of this sacred beast? This sacred beast is the dignified vermilion bird. It's just a small demonic beast. This sacred beast doesn't even put it in my eyes, okay? Oh, Yi Qing Luo replied expressionlessly. Then, I'll leave this Tong Tian beast to you. Qi Yan's proud little head suddenly drooped down again. Its sharp beak poked Yi Qing Luo's neck and said in a bad mood, "Isn't it all because you stupid human being is so weak? After forming a contract with you, this sacred beast and little white strength will be suppressed because of this. If this holy beast had a third of the strength I had during my prime, let alone one three-eyed heavenly beast, even if there were 10 or 100 of them, this holy beast would only be able to move its mouth. Saying so much doesn't change the fact that you can't deal with this beast now." Yi Qing Luo rudely interrupted Qi Yan's arrogance. The scarlet flame was so angry that it flapped its wings and cried out. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about Qi Yan's anger, but pondered over what Qi Yan said earlier. From Qi Yan's mouth, he probably knew. The three-eyes heavenly beast was very powerful. So powerful that even the current Qi Yan or Qi Qi didn't have the confidence to win. Chapter 3282. Master, it's not that little flaming and Qi Qi can't deal with the three-eyed heavenly beast, but three-eyed heavenly beasts don't act alone. Qi Qi moved closer to her head and explained in a serious manner. It's not a demonic beast that moves alone. Yi Qing Luo muttered the sentence in a low voice as her slender brows suddenly tightened. Such a ferocious beast. And they were acting in groups? Was there still a way out for them? Yi Qing Luo's mouth twitched as she sharply scanned the surroundings of the lush forest. She was vigilant to prevent the other three-eyed heavenly beasts from sneaking up on her. So, once Little Flaming and Qi Qi start fighting, the other three-eyed heavenly beasts will rush over to help. Qi Qi's ears drooped as she put on a guilty look. It's not that Qi Qi can't beat these beasts, but Master said to leave the forbidden area within 2 days. If we fight, we won't be able to solve the problem in 2 days. Yi Qing Luo. So ferocious? After fighting for 2 days and 2 nights, they still couldn't decide the winner? Wasn't this a little too ferocious? Yi Qing Luo stroked Qi Qi's little head and comforted. After all, this is not our territory. Let's try not to fight. But they hadn't met any danger along the way. Why did a three-eyed heavenly beast suddenly appear and cause trouble? There were no signs of magical beasts living in groups around here, so there was no reason to offend them by trespassing on their territory. Judging from the dangerous aura brought by the wind earlier, this three-eyed heavenly beast must have come looking for them. Roar! The three-eyed heavenly beast stared at Yi Qing Luo and let out an incomprehensible howl. Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows and calmed herself down. She squinted her eyes and said calmly, "Three-eyed heavenly beast? Since it's a mutated magical beast, it should be able to speak human language. It shouldn't be difficult for you." The three-eyed heavenly beast's ferocious eyes turned cold as its murderous aura intensified. It opened its mouth wide and revealed its sharp fangs. Its scarlet tongue licked its mouth from time to time. It looked like it was staring at its prey and was about to swallow it whole. If it were anyone else, he might have been frightened by the three-eyed heaven-reaching beast's appearance and begged for mercy. But Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change. She only raised her eyebrows and was extremely calm, not willing to talk? Very well, then I have no interest in wasting my time with you. Saying that, Yi Qing Luo circled around the three-eyed heavenly beast and moved forward. Her speed was not slow. However, the three-eyed heavenly beast was simply too big. Yi Qing Luo had walked for more than 10 steps, but had yet to bypass Skylink God. With great difficulty, he walked out of the range of the Skirich god's body. Suddenly, a black shadow descended from the sky. Yi Qing Luo took 2 steps back. Pa! The black figure fell heavily to the ground. That was the tail of the 3-eyed heavenly beast, blocking Yi Qing Luo's way. Yi Qing Luo halted her footsteps as she calmly glanced sideways at the Tong Tian beast. Do you intend to have a talk? Tong Tian beast slowly moved its sturdy long legs and turned around, facing Yi Qing Luo. That pair of sharp, beastly eyes reflected the girl's calm and indifferent face. It slowly kept its fangs, and a hoarse and sharp voice came from its mouth. Human, aren't you afraid of me? Sure enough, it was a demonic beast that could speak human language. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. What's your motive? A pack of demonic beasts had inexplicably rushed over to look for her. If it was only because it smelled the scent of a human and wanted to treat her as food. Chapter 30, 283. Apparently, the heavenly beast did not treat her as an ordinary person. The 3-eyed heavenly beast stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo, as if she was a tiny ant that could be squashed to death at any time. Human, you are very smart, it said in a hoarse voice. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. So, tell me your purpose. The tone of the heavenly beast rose slightly and became slightly sharp. This place does not belong to you. Either leave or die. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Are you threatening me? The feeling of being threatened by a demonic beast. It was really refreshing. No. The heavenly beast bared its sharp fangs. Human, I don't want to waste time with you. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and laughed mockingly. Unfortunately, I came in here, and if I can't achieve my purpose, I will be very unwilling to leave. Her voice revealed a trace of lightness. When the 3-eyed heavenly beast heard this, the murderous intent in its eyes became even more obvious. The 3-eyed heavenly beast raised its paw and landed heavily on the ground. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The forest shook. There was also a faint sound of rubble flowing. But this series of actions, the influence which it caused, didn't make Yi Qing Luo's expression change at all. Not only that, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a mocking smile. It seemed to be mocking the 3-eyed heavenly beast for overestimating itself. 3-eyed heavenly beast. Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth slowly and accurately called out its species. Her smile was full of ridicule and calmness. The fact that you are talking to me means that you are also afraid of my strength. After all, ordinary humans can't possibly stand here unscathed, so don't act arrogantly in front of me. The 3-eyed heavenly beast's eyes turned cold as it stomped its paw on the ground angrily. Towards its anger, Yi Qing Luo didn't have any reaction. Instead, her lips curled into an enchanting arc. Let me guess, for a mutated demonic beast like you, and your strength isn't bad, you want to force me to leave this place. Yi Qing Luo paused for a moment and raised her eyebrows. So, are you trying to stop me from coming into contact with something, or are you afraid that I will ruin your plan? This sentence, Yi Qing Luo intentionally slowed down the speed of her speech as she spoke out word by word. Demonic beasts were demonic beasts, after all. He couldn't compare to others. After Yi Qing Luo's words left her mouth, the 3-eyed heaven beast couldn't hide the emotions in its eyes at all. Its beast eyes were filled with malice, as though it was going to tear Yi Qing Luo apart any time. This indicated that what Yi Qing Luo had guessed was right. She really had the constitution of stirring up trouble at any time. Even in this forbidden area, where humans were not allowed to enter. It would also cause a huge incident. There was no one else like him. Humans are really cunning. The 3-eyed sky-reaching beast was infuriated, and its eyes were filled with rage. Its body flashed, releasing flowing lightning all over its body, and it let out a howl. Pa, pa, pa. The electric current struck down. From the area under Yi Qing Luo's feet, the ground was like a spider web as it spread out. Kacha! Following that, the ground began to crack. Yi Qing Luo's feet felt light. The ground cracked open, letting her body fall. Are you going to make a move now? Looks like I was right. Yi Qing Luo's chuckling voice was mixed with an appalling coldness. She tiptoed, and her body floated lightly in midair. With a flip, she landed on a big tree. Chapter 3284. The three-eyed heavenly beast's eyes flashed coldly when it saw Yi Qing Luo making her move. It seemed to be disdainful. It lifted its claws and stomped hard on the ground again. Immediately, it raised its neck and let out a sharp roar. His sharp fangs shone through the gaps between the lush leaves of the tree. Under the refraction of light, they emitted a cold glint. The moment its claws landed on the ground, a powerful and terrifying aura broke out. Endless electric currents flowed endlessly on its huge body, along with its roar. The surrounding trees were uprooted by a strong gust of wind. Bang, bang, bang. There were a few sounds of profound energy colliding. The wind blades released by Yi Qing Luo were all blocked by this gust of wind. Not only were they blocked, the three-eyed heavenly beast's body was covered with electric currents as it rushed towards Yi Qing Luo at an extremely fast speed. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes flashed. "Tiske, a demonic beast, is indeed powerful." She moved her feet, and her body was like a flame, flashing away from the attack of the heavenly beast. Roar! Roar, roar, roar! The heavenly beast's claws scratched the ground a few times after Yi Qing Luo dodged its attack, giving out a warning growl. A pair of sharp beast eyes flashed with a sharp, murderous aura. Are we going to get serious? Yi Qing Luo tilted her head. Her long and narrow eyes raised up with a faint smile. Her gaze swept to Qi Yan. How many heavenly beasts will join the battle this time? The three-eyed heavenly beast, and she could not reach an agreement. In the end, there was only one outcome left. Either you die or I live. Three-eyed heavenly beasts usually form a team of 10. Qi Yan replied, "There are at least 2 teams of heavenly beasts nearby." That was at least more than 20. One heavenly beast was already so terrifying. If there were another 20, she really could not continue to act tough anymore. Not only 2 teams, if the few of us join the battle, it is likely to attract more three-eyed heavenly beasts and even other demonic beasts. Qi Yan looked at Yi Qing Luo's thoughtful expression and very kindly added a sentence. Yi Qing Luo, a cold song was given to her. Since when were there so many mutated magical beasts? Heaven-defying, mutated magical beasts like the three-eyed heaven-reaching beasts appeared in large numbers. Were they buying one and giving the other away? So, are we going to raise our hands and surrender? Yi Qing Luo looked at Qi Yan. Surrender? I don't even know how to write the word. Surrender. Qi Yan flapped his wings and cried out, "Stupid human, you are the master of this sacred beast. If you dare to surrender and lose this sacred beast's face, this sacred beast will. I will burn you." Yi Qing Luo, if you don't want to surrender, then you might as well be straightforward and give me a way to deal with the heaven-reaching beast. Also, it was a battle pet with a blood contract. Even a saint beast wouldn't be able to bear the consequences of killing its master. While Yi Qing Luo and Qi Yan were conversing, the huge body of the three-eyed heavenly beast had rushed to the front of Yi Qing Luo in the blink of an eye. The speed was so fast that even Yi Qing Luo was secretly amazed. Fortunately, Qi transformed into her battle form in time and threw Yi Qing Luo onto her back. He dodged the attack of the heaven-reaching beast. The huge snow-white tiger beast had a pair of red tiger eyes, which made people shudder. The heaven-reaching beast pounced on empty air. It opened its mouth wide, trying to bite Yi Qing Luo to pieces in one fell swoop. After seeing the sudden appearance of the huge white tiger, Chapter 3285, its gaze wandered back and forth between Qi and Yi Qing Luo. No wonder this human is safe and sound here. Qi limbs were ablaze as it floated in midair. The usually adorable, and silly Chi-Chi. At this moment, the majesty of a sacred beast was fully displayed. A pair of red and enchanting tiger eyes stared at it coldly. I haven't appeared in the beast clan for a long time. Now, demonic beasts like you can bully my master? You also know that you haven't appeared for a long time. The heaven-reaching beast didn't have any reaction. It wasn't afraid of the majesty of a sacred beast. It was extremely calm. Now is not the era of you sacred beasts. If you don't want to die here with this human, get out of our territory. F***CK. You lowly demonic beast, what did you say? You lowly magical beasts think you can be compared to this holy beast? Chi-Yen couldn't stand the disdain of demonic beasts towards sacred beasts. It immediately fluttered its wings and transformed into its battle form. It spat out a flame at the three-eyed heaven-reaching beast. No matter how long it has been, sacred beasts are sacred beasts, and demonic beasts are demonic beasts. You lowly demonic beasts will never be able to surpass sacred beasts. The power of the vermilion bird's flame had been suppressed. It was enough to burn the fur of the heaven-reaching beast into a ball. The heaven-reaching beast let out a painful wail. A pair of sharp eyes stared at Chi-Yen with resentment. Chi-Yen was emitting the vermilion bird's flame. Its pair of red eyes carried the arrogance of a sacred beast. Little demonic beast, do you really think this sacred beast is afraid of you? Come on. This sacred beast will fight to the death with you. See how this sacred beast beats you until you call me father. Roar. The heaven-reaching beast quickly rolled on the ground, but the flame burning on its body couldn't be extinguished. The sizzling sound of burning quickly engulfed the green fur on the heaven-reaching beast's body. Not long after, the air was filled with the fragrance of roasted meat. Yi Qing Luo. Chiao Jiao was indeed Chiao Jiao. It seemed that they had to fight this battle. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips turned the glower flame fan. Just as he was about to release his dark force and start the battle mode, a gust of wind blew over. Amidst the rustling of the leaves, he could vaguely hear extremely rhythmic and aggressive footsteps. Not only that, there was also the faint sound of very discordant footsteps. The three-eyed heavenly beast's companions had arrived. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes contracted slightly. Suddenly, a ray of brilliance flashed past, just as Chi-Yen and Chi-Chi were about to pounce on the sky-reaching beast that was being burned by the vermilion bird bright fire to prove their majesty as holy beasts. Yi Qing Luo suddenly cried out, "Wait!" The two little sacred beasts abruptly stopped their movements. In unison, they turned their heads towards Yi Qing Luo. "Come back." Yi Qing Luo beckoned and said, "Chi-Yen, extinguish the fire." Chi-Yen shouted angrily, "Extinguished? This holy beast is going to burn this ungrateful, demonic beast to death." Annihilated. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly and emphasized her tone. Chi-Chi glanced at Chi-Yen, then drooped her head and step by step returned to Yi Qing Luo's side. Chi-Yan's eyes were about to burst into flames, but it still listened to Yi Qing Luo's command and unwillingly waved its wings to extinguish the fire on the heaven-reaching beast. It flew to the branch at the side and raised its neck high, showing a sulky look at Yi Qing Luo. The fire was extinguished, but it still couldn't save the heaven-reaching beast's fur. Chapter 3286. Vermilion, bird, sacred, beast. A hoarse, sharp, murderous voice spat out from the mouth of the heavenly beast. It opened and closed. He bared his cold fangs, dripping a viscous liquid. There was no need for Chi-Yen to explain. Yi Qing Luo also knew that the liquid secreted from the mouth of the heavenly beast was absolutely poisonous. The heavenly beast's resentful eyes stared fiercely in the direction of Chi-Yen. The flames on its body soared, and the huge claws on the ground dug the ground bit by bit. Little demon beast, do you want to challenge this sacred beast's power? This sacred beast will fulfill your wish. The provoked Qi Yen flapped its wings and set off a raging flame. Even if this sacred beast is not at its peak, it's easy to abuse you. Qi Yen. Yi Qing Luo spoke again, glancing at Qi Yen standing on the branch. Qi Yen was full of anger, and the flames shrouding its body were extinguished bit by bit. But its pair of burning eyes stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo believed, if it wasn't because of the blood contract, perhaps. Qi Yen wanted to throw a fire at her. Qi Yen stopped its fire because of Yi Qing Luo's order, but it didn't mean that the heavenly beast would stop its attack. All the hair on his body was charred black. It couldn't wait to pluck out Qi Yan's phoenix feathers. For the group of demon beasts who lived in the forbidden area isolated from the world for hundreds of years, the so-called 4 great sacred beasts were only a distant legend. Especially now, the beast power on Qi Yen and Qi was obviously far from the legend. In their own territory, even if they were sacred beasts, so what? The heavenly beast suddenly stopped digging the ground with its claws. Murderous aura broke out at this moment. Master! Qi widened its eyes and bit Yi Qing Luo's sleeve. Heavenly beast really wants to kill Little Flame. If Master doesn't let Little Flame do it, Little Flame will die. Yi Qing Luo's face was still calm. Under Chi's urgent cry, the heavenly beast turned into lightning and went straight to Qi Yen on the branch. Green light flickered. Bam! Majestic strength Qi spread out mightily. The enormous body of the sky-reaching beast seemed to have collided with something, resulting in a loud collision sound. With a muffled groan, Jiao Tutu's body leaped into the air and landed steadily on the ground. It raised its head high, took a look at Qi Yen, and immediately turned its gaze towards Yi Qing Luo. Seeing the girl close the glowing flame fan, the anger in his eyes deepened. At the moment of its attack, Scarlet Flame spread its wings and fled to another branch. Just as it was about to catch up with the mountain, a powerful dark force flew over from the right. The dark force formed a barrier that blocked it. Damn humans! He really wanted to bite her into pieces. The gaze of the heaven-reaching beast became even more ruthless and terrifying. However, under this kind of gaze, the young girl's expression did not change. She lazily waved the devouring flame fan at her fingertips and said, "Tong Tian beast, just because I asked my little companions to stop doesn't mean that you can attack them." The girl's voice was very light, and there was not the slightest fluctuation in her emotions. It was like a calm lake without a single ripple. Roar! The heaven-reaching beast let out an angry, warning growl. Yi Qing Luo smiled, but that smile did not reach the bottom of her eyes. "Tong Tian beast, we are preparing to leave the forbidden area. Are you sure you still want to fight?" "Master." When Qi heard this sentence, his drooping ears instantly stood up. Even his white tail stood up high. Chapter 3287. Yi Qing Luo rubbed its big head and corrected it. "We'll leave the forbidden area together." But Qi panicked. Although their master's purpose of entering the forbidden area had not been precisely mentioned between them, but wasn't it very clear in their hearts? The purpose had not been achieved. Master was about to leave? Then, what should they do? Chi's heart was completely submissive to Yi Qing Luo. No matter how many words it had in its heart, it couldn't say them out. But Qi Yen was different. Qi Yen, who had always been used to doing things his own way, immediately rushed to Yi Qing Luo, scarlet eyes, staring at Yi Qing Luo. "Leave? We've come all the way here and you say leave? Stupid human, this sacred beast will never leave with you." The atmosphere was tense between the human and the two beasts. On the other hand, the murderous Tong Tian beast, upon hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, instantly dissipated. It looked warily at the human and two beasts in front of it, listening to their conversation, slowly narrowing its eyes. Chi's pleading gaze and Qi Yan's fiendish accusatory gaze. Yi Qing Luo's attention was always on the beast. Naturally, she didn't miss the action of the beast. Her lips curved imperceptibly, as if she didn't listen to Qi Yan's words at all, staring fixedly at the beast. Or do you want to fight? Humans have always been cunning. The beast said coldly, I don't believe you. Yi Qing Luo shrugged. No one has entered this forbidden area for hundreds of years. I'm here just to follow a challenge. I'll leave the forbidden area as long as I pick the gold, magnetic spirit grass. The beast's eyes flickered slightly. Its gaze on Yi Qing Luo also eased up a little. Yi Qing Luo hid the deep meaning in her eyes. Sure enough, her guess was right, no matter how she ridiculed in her heart. Her face was still calm and indifferent. The beast pondered for a moment and looked towards the southwest direction. The gold magnetic spirit grass is over there. Leave immediately after you pick it. Yi Qing Luo. What a surprise! The connecting heaven beast was extremely cooperative. She didn't need to spend any more time to find the location of the gold magnetic spirit grass. Yi Qing Luo smiled as her eyes squinted. Many thanks, I'll slip away now. With that, she hooked Chi-Chi's neck and waved to Qi-Yan, let's go. Qi-Yan turned his head angrily and refused to listen to her. Yi Qing Luo didn't continue to persuade him. Hugging Chi-Chi, he stroked Shiju, who had been silent and in a daze from beginning to end. Turning around, he walked in the direction the Tongtian beast had pointed. Chi-Chi's ears and tail drooped. He looked back 3 times with every step. He wanted to stay, but he couldn't resist his master's orders. Shiju also had a posture of turning back 3 times with every step. However, it wasn't because he wanted to stay behind and fight against the heaven-reaching beast. Shiju's gaze was looking in the direction of the depths of the forest from start to end, very dazed. 1 man and 2 beasts left just like that. Scarlet Flame fluttered on the branch for a while. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo really didn't wait for it or had the intention to obey it, it was so angry that it let out a clear cry. Then, its scarlet eyes glared fiercely at the heaven-reaching beast. Spreading its wings, it flew towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Qi Yan was still extremely angry, although it followed Yi Qing Luo's footsteps, but it was still angry with Yi Qing Luo and didn't want to get close. Yi Qing Luo headed straight towards the southwest direction. Her footsteps were light and brisk. Very soon, 1 man and 3 beasts were far away from the place where the heaven-reaching beast was, about a few hundred meters away. Yi Qing Luo slowly retracted the perception that she had released. She stopped in her tracks. Chapter 3288. Chi-Chi's eyes were full of hesitation. The pitiful look was lovable. Shiju didn't have any extra eyes, just stared at Yi Qing Luo blankly, but its mind had long been empty. 1 person and 2 beasts stopped. Qi-Yan hovered in the air, holding back a belly full of anger. Seeing Yi Qing Luo stop, it swooped down, staring at her, and said angrily, "Stupid human! A heaven-reaching beast scared you like this? Don't you believe in the strength of this sacred beast? Just a mediocre demonic beast. This sacred beast can fight 10. It was so angry that it kept howling, circling around Yi Qing Luo. The vibrating wings brought up the surrounding air, set off a gust of hurricane, blowing Yi Qing Luo's hair wildly. This sacred beast making a contract with a coward like you is really the worst choice this sacred beast has made since its birth." Qi Yan was obviously very angry. The words in its heart, completely without thinking, flew out. This sacred beast really thought that you would be that person. Little White, you simply recognized the wrong person. How could a rookie like her be that person? Qi Yan! Chi suddenly roared. The clear and crisp voice of a child had an irresistible deterrent force. This roar brought Qi Yan back to his senses from his anger, after meeting Chi-Chi's warning eyes. Qi Yan's sharp beak opened and closed a bit, as if it wanted to say something. Finally, it snorted heavily and turned its head away. Qi Yan's words under rage. Yi Qing Luo heard it very clearly, coupled with Qi Qi's rare low roar. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but be curious. Who was that person Qi Yan was talking about? In the beginning, Qi Qi took the initiative to find her and become her battle pet, although Qi Yan disliked her in every way. But in July, it took the initiative to choose the blood contract. This kind of blood contract, which handed over its life to her. Both of them were ancient sacred beasts, high and mighty, incomparably noble. It wasn't that she hadn't thought about why the sacred beast would choose her. It was just that she had been deliberately avoiding this question, because she knew, if Qi Qi or Qi Yan wanted to say, from the beginning they would tell her. If you don't want to say it, once the words were made clear, the relationship between her and Qi Qi or Qi Yan was likely to change. In fact, even her life was going to change. Therefore, she didn't ask or think too deeply about it. Today, under the extreme wrath of Qi Yan, Yi Qing Luo finally understood some hidden reason. Because he had mistaken her for someone else? Master! Qi Qi called out to her in a low and crisp voice. There was a hint of caution in his voice. Since when did her Qi Qi become so cautious around her? Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes slightly, and when she opened them again, the corners of her lips had already curled up into a slight smile. Reaching out, she caressed Qi Qi's head and smiled warmly. It's all right. I understand how you guys feel. Yi Qing Luo's smile made Qi Qi stunned. Its tiger eyes stared blankly at Yi Qing Luo's smiling eyes. Yi Qing Luo continued, You should believe me. Since I've entered the forbidden grounds, I will not return empty-handed. In the end, she did not choose to forcefully get to the bottom of it. She knew very well that Qi Qi would answer her as long as she asked. But she didn't want to see Qi Qi in a difficult situation. Then pretend that she didn't listen carefully to Qi Yan's reprimand. Chapter 3289. Yi Qing Luo waved to Qi Yan, who was still twisting his little head with a "I'm still angry" look. Be good, the three of you. Change back to your pet form first. Qi Qi's body swayed and turned into a snow-white kitten, leaping onto Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. Shi Ju was absent-minded, but it still obeyed Yi Qing Luo's orders. Qi Yan swung its long neck and snorted heavily. Its mouth expressed its disdain, but its body was very honest as it turned into a little bird and burrowed into Yi Qing Luo's hair. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo's figure quickly flashed and sneaked into the lush forest. Holding her breath, condensing her qi, hiding in the forest was her best skill. There was no need to worry about moving the surrounding vegetation and making a sound, which would attract the attention of other creatures in this forbidden area, because wherever Yi Qing Luo went, there was no sound at all. But after a while, this one person and three beasts returned in a forward state. Yi Qing Luo used her mental power to explain to her three companions. The reason why I said that I want to leave in front of the heavenly beasts is not because I'm afraid of wasting time. But if we were to make a move, those heavenly beasts hidden in the surroundings would immediately rush up. From the sound of their footsteps, it's not as simple as two teams of beasts. You and Qi Qi can face most of them, but Shi Ju and I are very likely to have an accident. If we really fight, we won't be able to gain any advantage. Qi Qi knows that Master is the smartest. Qi Qi put on a look of infatuation. Master is right. Everything Master says is right. Qi Yan, humph. Also, didn't you notice that the beast seems to be eager for us to leave the forbidden area? Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes curved slightly as she smiled slyly. Qi Qi tilted its little head. Seems. Yes. Yi Qing Luo nodded. Especially when I suggested to leave, it didn't even take revenge for being burnt by Qi Yan, and wholeheartedly didn't want to be entangled with us. I don't think it's afraid of me, or you two sacred beasts. If we ask it before contacting me, its reaction is very likely. My guess is that this bunch of heaven-reaching beasts might be planning something. If we continue to tangle with them and delay them, our plans will be ruined. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. She had another feeling, but she didn't say it. She had a feeling that the heaven-reaching beast seemed to know who she was. He really didn't want her to continue staying in the Forbidden Land. It was also because of this feeling. In the end, she told him about the bet she made with Hao Nanren outside the forbidden area. As expected, this confirmed her suspicions. The reaction of the heaven-reaching beast told it. The heaven-reaching beast knew about the bet between her and Hao Nanren. How could the demonic beasts in the Forbidden Land know what was happening outside? Therefore, Yi Qing Luo was suspicious. That was why he was acting like this. Sneak back and find the truth. Qi Yan's arrogant head finally turned towards Yi Qing Luo. After analyzing it, the heaven-reaching beast's attitude was indeed strange. 1 man and 3 beasts. After the explanation, the atmosphere eased up. At this moment, they stealthily hid in the darkness where they had fought with the heaven-reaching beast. Just as he approached, Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed slightly as she immediately stopped in her tracks, concealing all her presence, only to see, at the place where they had been standing earlier, it was surrounded by at least 50 three-eyed heavenly beasts. Those gigantic heaven-reaching beasts were imposing and awe-inspiring, their bodies flowing like lightning. Chapter 3290. One by one, the Tong Tian beasts roared and made all sorts of noises. Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand the beast language, but the 3 companions beside her understood. Hence, Chi successfully took on the role of translator. In the middle of the Tong Tian beasts was Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast. In front of it stood 2 larger, but obviously old-looking Tong Tian beasts. The old Tong Tian beast asked, "Are you sure that the human has left?" Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast snorted coldly. "Of course. Didn't you see her leaving with your own eyes?" The old Tong Tian beast sighed. "The plan is at the end, and we can end it soon. We can't make any mistakes. Otherwise, our demonic beast clan will be annihilated. When will that thing wake up?" Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast asked impatiently. The old Tong Tian beast drooped his head. "There's no specific time. If that thing can wake up soon, then we won't need to be controlled by others." Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast's eyes were filled with killing intent. The old Tong Tian beast asked worriedly, "Are you sure that the human has really left? The people over there said very clearly that we absolutely can't let that human collide with that thing." Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast said, "Haven't the people over there investigated very clearly? That human entered the forbidden zone because of the challenge. She will leave after picking the gold magnetic spirit grass." A group of heaven-reaching beasts were chattering nonstop in their beast language. These beast language, through Chi-Chi's translation, fell into Yi Qing Luo's ears. That thing, the people over there, her guess was right. The Tong Tian beasts, indeed, had some kind of plan. To urge her to leave, to prevent her from spoiling their plans. And this group of demonic beasts who lived in the Forbidden Zone, isolated from the outside world, there was indeed another person behind the scenes, manipulating them from behind. These big pieces of information made Chi-Chi shake her little head as she excitedly stuck out her tongue at Chi-Yen. "Lilian, see, Master is so smart, retreating in order to advance. This is called a strategy." Chi-Yen snorted coldly as he turned his head away, arrogantly. "Stop fooling around," Yi Qing Luo said as she patted Chi-Chi's head. "There's someone." "Someone." One Chi-Chi immediately turned her head and looked in the direction of her master's gaze. A figure could be vaguely seen walking out from the group of heaven-reaching beasts. That person was shrouded in a black cloak. Even his face was covered by a black veil, making it impossible to see his appearance. "Huh, idiot." As soon as that person appeared, he sneered at Jiao Tutu's heaven-connecting beast. His tone was cold and full of ridicule. "You don't understand how treacherous and cunning that scoundrel is. If I don't see that scoundrel leave the forbidden area with my own eyes, I won't be able to feel at ease." The black-robed man's attitude caused Jiao Tuatu's heaven-reaching beast to show disgust in its eyes. However, it tried its best to endure it. Facing the black-robed man, Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast spoke in the human language. He's just an ordinary human being with two sacred beasts by his side. He doesn't even dare to fight with me. How can you be so concerned about him? Don't look down on that guy. Hurry up and get your men to chase after that scoundrel. We must ensure that the scoundrel has really left this place. The black-robed man ordered sternly. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Jiao Tutu's Tongtian beast refused. There were two sacred beasts by that human's side. Even its feathers had been burned by the vermilion bird. It was unwilling to let its companions chase after him. If Vermilion Bird found out. Chapter 30, 291. The black-robed man sneered. His sharp and hoarse voice was extremely ear-piercing. Good. Not going to chase? If you spoil the palace lord's plan, the demonic beast clan, just wait to die. Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast suddenly raised its head. Its beast eyes were sinister as it stared at the black-robed man. The raging anger in its eyes was like it was about to ignite. The black-robed man was indifferent. His breath was filled with a mocking coldness. The heaven-reaching beast was furious and unwilling, but it couldn't do anything to the human in front of it. It gritted its teeth and used beast language to order the heaven-reaching beast next to it. Go! Follow the human and watch her leave, then come back to report. The heaven-reaching beast roared, indicating that it accepted the order. Immediately, its long claws moved, and it dashed towards the southwest direction. Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast's eyes were sinister. Now, are you satisfied? The black-robed man snorted coldly, arrogantly walking among the huge heaven-reaching beasts. Yi Qing Luo, who was hiding in the dark. The moment she saw the black-robed man appear, the corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. She wasn't unfamiliar with the black-robed man. Just hearing the black-robed man's voice, she recognized him, Fengling. The black-robed man was Fengling. She didn't expect Fengling would actually appear here. This was the forbidden area of the East Continent. Didn't Qi Yan say that in this forbidden land it was fatal for humans? Why did Fengling look like she was safe and sound? Looking at the interaction between Fengling and the heaven-reaching beast, the heaven-reaching beast had a tolerant attitude towards Fengling. Obviously, the person behind the heaven-reaching beast was related to the Palace of Darkness. Palace of Darkness, the awakening of that thing. Could it be that the Palace of Darkness was thinking of a thought flashed past her mind? Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed. A trace of biting cold flashed past her eyes. If it was really like what she thought, then this time she must interfere and destroy the plan of the Palace of Darkness. Just as she was pondering, Yi Qing Luo suddenly sensed a slight noise behind her. Her ears twitched. She was about to use her footwork to escape, but it was too late. A cold voice came from behind him. Who is it? This voice was like a mechanical voice, rigid and without any fluctuation of words, compared to Mo Yuying's mechanical and lifeless voice. This voice was even more soulless. Yi Qing Luo knew that since she had been discovered, she couldn't hide anymore. She calmly stood up from the dark and slowly turned around. Her half-squinted eyes reflected the scene behind her. In front of him were 5 tall men in black armor. Their expressions were indifferent, and their eyes were lifeless. They looked like 5 statues standing before him. Yi Qing Luo was very close. From these 5 men, he could clearly feel a bone-chilling coldness. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly when he saw the 5 men. Yi Qing Luo obviously felt a shapeless pressure spreading in the air. Who was this person? He had actually appeared on her body without a sound. Until they got close. She could barely make out their movements. No, to be more precise, if it wasn't for the sound of friction when they approached her, she absolutely couldn't sense the approaching of these 5 men. At least for now, facing these 5 men, she couldn't sense their presence at all. These 5 men, who on earth were they? They were actually so terrifying. Yi Qing Luo held her glower flame fan in vigilance and immediately retreated backwards. She retreated out of the attacking range of the 5 men. Chapter 32:92. The alluring red figure was like the setting sun, flashing past her eyes. "Who is it?" Feng Ling cried out in alarm. Following the voice, she looked towards the direction of the figure. She saw the girl she hated the most, dressed in a long red dress, against the light that shone through the gap, standing on the tree branch. The red dress fluttered, the green color fluttered. The girl's face was like a peach blossom, a beauty that could topple a city, especially that pair of eyes that seemed to bear thousands of assimilation, flowing with countless flirtatious colors. Feng Ling had always known that Yi Qing Luo was very beautiful, and that kind of beauty was soul-stirring, not daring to blaspheme. But every time she saw Yi Qing Luo, she still couldn't help but be awed by Yi Qing Luo's suffocating charm. Especially now, seeing such beauty, she only felt endless hatred spreading in her heart. Because of Yi Qing Luo. Because of Yi Qing Luo, she became like this. Feng Ling's hatred was not concealed at all. The person who was hated curled her pink lips, calmly met that pair of eyes which were filled with hatred, and smiled lightly. "What a coincidence! I didn't expect to see you here." As she spoke, Yi Qing Luo tilted her head. Her long and narrow eyes, because of this action, looked even deeper and more demonic. "Should I say that we are fated, or should I say that we are enemies on a narrow road?" Feng Ling's body tensed up, the 2 eyes under the black veil stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. That hoarse and sharp voice, as if it had been chased by a saw, was very ear-piercing. "You really didn't leave? Good, very good. Since you insist on coming back to die, I will let you. Never leave this place." Feng Ling's hands clenched into fists. Her face was extremely sinister. Her hands, which were raised on her waist, were tightened because of the agitation. The black robe was pulled open, revealing a trace of skin. Yi Qing Luo just took a glance, and the expression in her eyes changed immediately. That glance made her shocked, because that small part of Feng Ling's skin was covered with patches of green and red, pitted marks. It looked extremely disgusting. Yi Qing Luo's gaze quickly shifted to Feng Ling's face. Sure enough, under the black veil, although it was not clear, one could still vaguely see that Feng Ling's face was also covered in green and red marks. What was going on? What kind of mark was this? Wind Chime's face and body. Could it be that they had all become so ghastly? Ah, no one is allowed to look. I forbid you to look. Feng Ling was aware of Yi Qing Luo's line of sight. She suddenly went crazy and quickly pulled up her black robe to cover her skin. But because of this overbearing action, he pulled his black robe to cover the place which Yi Qing Luo was looking at earlier, but the other side was exposed. Those potholes, traces of green and red, were clearly exposed in front of Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Feng Ling became even crazier. Her face was contorted, and she kept roaring. His 2 hands were desperately pulling on his body. The more impatient he was, the more he wanted to conceal himself. The black robe on her body and the black veil on her face became even more entangled. His frenzied appearance was very much like that of a violent beast. After going berserk for half an incense's time, Feng Ling simply tore off the black robe on her body, no longer concealing herself. On her body, there was no part of her skin that was intact, no matter if it was her face or the exposed skin. All of them were densely packed marks. It was so disgusting that he almost vomited. This was simply more terrifying than disfigurement. Chapter 3293. Her face was ferocious. Her facial features were distorted, and the potholes on her face were squeezed even more clearly. I've been completely ruined by you. You're very happy, aren't you? Feng Ling slowly cupped her face and laughed maniacally. You made me lose my face, lose everything. I can no longer snatch Brother Diawei. You're very proud, you're very happy, aren't you? She laughed and laughed as tears rolled down her cheeks. Looking at Feng Ling's crazed look, it was obvious that she had lost her mind. Yi Qing Luo expressed that there was no fluctuation in her heart. She even wanted to laugh. Feng Ling's accusation also made her feel very amused. Yi Qing Luo spread her arms and slowly jumped down from the branch, landing in front of Feng Ling. Her wide sleeves fluttered down like a butterfly spreading its wings. It was incomparably gorgeous. This scene caused the expression on Feng Ling's face to become even more twisted. Feng Ling, was it me who ruined you, or you who ruined yourself? Yi Qing Luo's eyes were calm as she spoke. The shock of Feng Ling's disfigurement also disappeared under Feng Ling's accusation. She curled her lips coldly. And correction, don't say it as if you could snatch a Xian away before you were disfigured. Kacha! This sentence completely broke Feng Ling's taut thread. She raised her hands stiffly, bent them and hugged her head as a deafening roar erupted from her mouth. Ah! Following Feng Ling's crazy roar, with her as the center, the ground began to ripple like the waves of the sea. Even in the air, there were layers of ripples. Endless energy surged and rolled, just as this force was about to strike Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo moved her 5 fingers. The glower flame fan drew a bright red light and formed a barrier that enveloped her. The lush trees were uprooted. The flying sand and stones were horrifying. The surrounding heaven-reaching beasts, under this energy, embedded their sharp claws deep into the ground and barely avoided being blown away by the strong wind. In the barrier, Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes and stared at Feng Ling, who was surging with energy, secretly surprised. If her memory served her right, Feng Ling should be completely without any profound energy left. She purposely returned the butterfly saint technique to the palace of gloomy darkness. It was to make the butterfly saint technique and wind chime kill each other. How could wind chimes still have power? Her plan seemed to have deviated. Stupid human being, what are you doing to anger her? The voice of Qi Yin came from the hair, and its small head popped out. It glanced at Feng Ling with disdain in its eyes. Didn't I say that the aura of this forbidden land has a special power that is fatal to humans? Yi Qing Luo nodded her head. She and those 5 monsters to be able to stand here, they can't even be considered humans. Qi Yan's sharp mouth pointed to the 5 men who had discovered Yi Qing Luo's whereabouts. Especially that woman, in order to stand here. She has paid a great price. Not human. Monster? Perhaps it was because he had heard this word too many times. In Yi Qing Luo's mind suddenly surfaced, dead corpse puppet, these 4 words. When these 4 words appeared in her mind, Yi Qing Luo quivered. A trace of surprise flashed past her eyes. Right, dead corpse puppet. The Palace of Darkness was the birthplace of the dead corpse puppet. Chapter 3294. Whereas Feng Ling and those 5 men were able to stand here without any abnormalities. In addition, Feng Ling had no profound energy, but now she could release a power that even the Tongtian beast could not resist. There was only one possibility. Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened as she stared at Feng Ling. Have become a corpse puppet. Not only Feng Ling, the 5 men were also undead corpse puppets. But what made Yi Qing Luo suspicious was corpse puppets should have no consciousness and only knew how to follow the instructions of the person controlling them. But Feng Ling obviously had her own consciousness, no matter if it was her speech or expression. There was no difference from usual. As for those 5 men, although their speech was mechanical and their eyes were empty, but they had their own consciousness and didn't feel like they were being controlled by someone. Yi Qing Luo's words made the raging Fengling's eyes flash with a trace of murderous intent. But very quickly, Fengling didn't have the slightest bit of bashfulness as she raised her head with a sinister smile. "Yes, I am a corpse puppet." She gave a few cold laughs as her venomous gaze stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. The strength qi enveloping his body was still rising. "Yi Qing Luo, your methods to deal with those defective products are useless against me." Fengling sneered. "The Palace of Darkness had transformed me into the latest type of corpse puppet, which is also a completed corpse puppet." From Fengling's words, it sounded as though she was extremely proud of herself for becoming a corpse puppet. However, the resentment in her eyes and the unwillingness in her reddened eyes revealed her true thoughts in the bottom of her heart. If it was possible, who would want to become a monster that was neither human nor ghost? She was not human, but she had a human consciousness and human habits. She was invulnerable, impervious to fire and water, and didn't feel pain. But after all, she was a human shell. Her body was full of bumps and bruises, which was a ghastly sight. It was the various torture methods that the Palace of Darkness used to test this type of completed corpse puppet, burning, drowning, burying, and even attacking her with all their might. And she couldn't hide or evade. She could only endure one after another. Experiment. She didn't know pain. However, his skin had been destroyed in the many experiments he had been experimenting with, until the experiment ended. Only then was she released and sent to this forbidden area. From the beginning to the end, she had no right to choose. All of this, it was all thanks to this rascal in front of him. If it wasn't for Yi Qing Luo, if it wasn't for the fact that she had specially released the butterfly saint technique, which she had been torturing for a few days, back to the Anyo Palace, there was no way she could have caught the attention of the palace master, much less become the first batch of experimental subjects. Fengling could not recall the scene at that time. After the butterfly saint law returned to the Palace of Darkness, she claimed that she had come to the Palace of Darkness as a spy for DMO Xian. The plan to invade the South Waves continent was originally going smoothly. It was because of Fengling's interference, secretly passing the news and revealing the location of the South Continent's base to DMO Xian. That was why the South Billow Continent's plan failed. Moreover, even the person whom the palace master wanted to bring back, the island sage of the godless island, Mo Yuing, was not brought back. In short, the sacred butterfly technique pushed all the blame for the failure of the mission onto Winchime. No matter how much Wind Chimes tried to explain herself, the loss of power this time caused no one in the Palace of Darkness to believe in her. Although the palace lord did not completely believe the butterfly saint technique's words. Chapter 3295. She and the butterfly saint technique had become the first batch of finished corpse puppets to be refined. But she was luckier than the butterfly saint technique. The Palace of Seclusion used an extremely bold refining method. They directly used a batch of excellent bone structure and had been nourished by miraculous pills and elixirs since young as experimental subjects. During the refining process, the butterfly saint technique had become the first failed product due to the corrosion of Yi Qing Luo's poison. Failed products were waste. The palace lord directly extracted the butterfly saint technique's soul and threw it into the container to become the corpse puppet's fodder. And she, Fengling, it was based on his strong willpower and hatred towards Yi Qing Luo, withstood it. She was transformed until she was neither human nor ghost. Her face and body were destroyed. What supported Fengling now was only the hatred towards Yi Qing Luo and the desire to seek revenge. Yi Qing Luo, even if I die, I will drag you along. To hell. Following Fengling's sharp howl, filled with hatred, the energy in her body surged wildly. The long whip that was drawn from her waist was like a nimble, poisonous snake, tearing the air apart. Energy surged. Sand and stones flew, gravel flew, and trees flew. The ground was also cracking with a rumbling sound. Foamling, who was raging with hatred, the black aura surrounding her became more and more intense, almost as though she was going to drown her completely. Boundless murderous intent emanated from the energy she released, spreading outwards. Crack! A crisp tearing sound could be heard. The enchantment around Yi Qing Luo's body was actually broken through by this gust of energy. Foamling's eyes turned cold as her lips curled into a sly sneer. Her hands clenched into fists and raised upwards. In an instant, the black energy in her body boiled to the peak. Crack, crack, crack. The enchantment was completely broken. The majestic hurricane was like a huge whirlpool, stirring the surrounding air as it pounced downwards. Yi Qing Luo was covered by Foamling's black energy in an instant. The young lady's fine black hair was blown by the strong wind and was in a mess. Her eyebrows sunk slightly. She had to admit that towards Foamling's current strength, she was indeed surprised. But it was true. Foamling was a spirit formation master. The reason why DMO Xian summoned Foamling was to help her break the barrier. It could be seen that Foamling's attainments in enchantment were higher than DMO Xian's. It was not surprising that he could break through her barrier. What are you waiting for? Since this slut refuses to leave this place obediently, kill her directly. Foamling saw Yi Qing Luo's enchantment was broken, and a maniacal smile flashed past her eyes. The 5 men furrowed their brows, as if they weren't willing to make a move. As for the Tongtian beasts, they were almost unable to withstand the black qi emitted by Foamling, so how could they possibly split their attention to attack Yi Qing Luo? Wind Chime's gaze turned fierce. Don't forget the palace master's orders. This person has already eavesdropped on our conversation and knows our goal. The only thing they could do now was to kill her if they wanted to stop this scoundrel from colliding with that thing. Otherwise, if the mission fails, none of us will be able to escape. When the 5 men heard the 2 words palace master, they vaguely reacted. Their brows furrowed even tighter. Extremely unwilling, they walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The surging and majestic black strength qi seemed to have no effect on the 5 men at all. In just a moment, the 5 men had already stood in front of Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 3296. TSK. It had already become the latest type of corpse puppets and still needed to call for help to fight against her? How much did Foamling fear her in her heart? Yi Qing Luo shook her glower flame fan and smiled evilly, as if I don't know how to call for help. She opened the glower flame fan and waved it suddenly. The bright red light broke through the spreading black qi in front of her. Immediately after, the young lady tiptoed lightly and soared into the air. On her body, 3 rays of light fell. White light flashed. A giant white tiger suddenly appeared in midair. Stepping on flames, raised its neck high and let out a terrifying tiger roar. Raging flames burned. The sky was covered by a smear of red light. The red phoenix feathers were overflowing with light, shining brightly. When the wings flapped, there were flames scuttling past. Black light suddenly appeared. This black was much brighter than the spreading black qi in the surroundings. The giant black panther stood in front of Yi Qing Luo, firmly protecting the young lady behind it. Its whole body was covered with black fur, like smooth silk. It opened its mouth slightly, revealing sharp fangs. 3 battle pets, divided into 3 sides. 1 person and 3 beasts, even if they didn't move. The 5 men, Foamling and the heaven-reaching beasts could feel the majestic aura coming towards them. Looking at the 3 valiant and spirited companions, Yi Qing Luo snorted. Who didn't have helpers? Let's see who's the show-off. Just based on these few beasts, how can they call for help? The long whip in Foamling's hand suddenly waved. rolling up thousands of wind waves. Even sacred beasts can't cause any harm to our finished corpse puppets. Feng Ling's eyes were scarlet red as she shouted and attacked Yi Qing Luo. The 5 men followed closely behind and launched their attacks. Feng Ling's action of releasing profound energy paused. The surging black strength qi in the surroundings also dissipated. The heaven-reaching beasts had just heaved a sigh of relief. Feng Ling's scolding had already pressed down on them. "You are a bunch of trash. Can't even handle a few sacred beasts?" The heaven-reaching beasts had a lot of dissatisfaction towards Feng Ling, but in the current situation, there was indeed no room for it to resist. For a moment, the beasts were entangled. People were entangled. The entire forest was reduced to ruins because of this chaos. In the face of Wen Qim's suicidal attacks and the 5 men's merciless attacks, Wen Qim's body trembled. While Yi Qing Luo was evading and counterattacking, it became more and more strenuous. Fortunately, she was fast and had a set of footwork that was integrated with the teleportation secret technique. He wasn't in a sorry state. After exchanging a dozen moves, Yi Qing Luo felt it deeply. The difference between a finished, undead puppet and a half-finished or defective one was obvious. These 5 men did not receive orders. They only knew how to attack blindly. Instead, it was a tacit and tactical attack. There was also wind chimes. Even if Qi Yan, Qi Qi, or Shi Ju can take time to help her reduce some of the pressure. Under the prolonged battle, Yi Qing Luo was already unable to evade in time. Although the gourd flame fan, which had been refined by Tang Beiyuan, was somewhat effective against this completed corpse puppet, the gourd flame fan was not a match for the corpse puppet. But in comparison, she was even more embarrassed. Just at this moment, Yi Qing Luo was evading one of the men's palm wind. As she quickened her footwork, her figure had already been seen through. Bang! A palm strike landed directly on Yi Qing Luo's chest. Yi Qing Luo gave a muffled groan as her feet suddenly sped up. After leaving the attack range, Yi Qing Luo gasped lightly as she raised her hand to press on her chest. Yi Qing Luo's injury made Feng Ling's face reveal an ecstatic expression. Chapter 3297. Without Brother D by her side. What was she, Yi Qing Luo? That scoundrel. Did she really think that with her own strength she could deal with her with the completed corpse puppets? Today, she wanted Yi Qing Luo to die in her hands. She wanted Yi Qing Luo to go to hell together. Thinking that Yi Qing Luo would die tragically in her own hands, Feng Ling's heart was indescribably carefree. In front of her, there seemed to be an image of Yi Qing Luo lying on the ground, begging for mercy in a low voice. Ha ha ha. Now let's go. Kill this scoundrel. Kill her. Feng Ling laughed crazily, but she was also worried that the 5 completed corpse puppets would not be so cooperative. She said to the corpse puppets, "That thing is about to awaken. We don't have much time. We'd better speed up." Those 5 men, their figures flashed, once again pressing towards Yi Qing Luo. The palm strike from the undead corpse puppet just now was not light. Yi Qing Luo felt that her back was torn apart. The pain made her face pale. Seeing the corpse puppets rushing over again, close at hand, Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed a biting cold. Slender fingers suddenly clenched tightly. A ring on her fingertip, flashing a bewitching red light. Stupid human, don't tell me you want to use the power of the azure aqua ring. Qi Yan sensed the change in Yi Qing Luo's aura. His gaze suddenly became dignified. This place, even if it's the Overlord, if he wants to barge in, it will take a lot of time. If you use the power of the azure aqua ring, your profound jade heart will have a problem. This sacred beast will not care about you. Yi Qing Luo raised her right hand. Her eyes fixed on the azure aqua ring, the corners of her mouth raised. Nothing will happen. It's something I have contracted. If I have to think about it every time I use it, what use do I have for it? Saying that, She closed her eyes and was about to fuse with the power of the azure aqua ring. Suddenly, her raised right hand was grasped by a cold big hand. That big palm easily suppressed Yi Qing Luo's fingertip, the power of the azure aqua ring. The strange yet familiar touch, coupled with the disappearance of the azure aqua ring's power, made Yi Qing Luo slightly stunned. She suddenly opened her eyes. Under the hurricane, a red figure covered his entire vision. "With me here, there's no need to force yourself." His voice was ice-cold, but it carried an irresistible charm. The handsome face before her had an ice-cold expression, and a pair of almond-shaped eyes seemed to be covered in ice. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips moved as she asked in astonishment, "Zhu Wu Xan? Why would you?" Wasn't the person in front of him Zhu Wuxin? Why is he here? Zhu Wu Xan, why would he appear here? "Because I saved you," Zhu Wuxin said indifferently. His expression was cold, and his temperament was icy. He looked as if he had just walked out of an ice house, exuding an eerie chill. Save her? What did that mean? Zhu Wuxin slowly let go of her right hand and stood in front of her in a protective manner. Then he faced the direction of the undead puppets. The coldness in his body grew even colder. His gaze was like a sharp blade made of thousand-year-old ice, piercing towards the undead corpse puppets. His eyes were filled with murderous intent and complicated emotions. His back faced Yi Qing Luo. When he opened his mouth, it was obviously for Yi Qing Luo. "Once you saved me. Now, no matter what changes, it's my turn to protect you. This point will never change." This sentence, like a large bell, it struck heavily on Yi Qing Luo's heart. Chapter 3298. Yi Qing Luo could tell, although Zhu Wu Xian's tone was indifferent. However, the strength behind those words was so heavy that it caused her heart to sink into a complicated state of mind. Faintly, there was a tinge of guilt. She was unable to repay Zhu Wu Xian's feelings towards her. When they were young, the past with Zhu Wu Xian was ultimately not her. The current her was a brand new Yi Qing Luo, a Yi Qing Luo who only loved DMO, Xian, wholeheartedly. How could she bear it? Zhu Wu Xian's wholehearted protection? Looking at the back view in front of her, Yi Qing Luo would rather use the Azure Du Ring's energy to resolve the current crisis. She also didn't wish for Zhu Wu Xian to appear and save her. Death God Castle's Castle Lord. Towards Zhu Wu Xian's appearance, Fengling was extremely astonished. Her eyes widened as she stared intently at Zhu Wu Xian. "Why are you here? Don't you already know everything? Why do you still want to save her? Don't tell me. Don't tell me you really like." Bam! Fengling had yet to finish her words. Zhu Wu Xian's eyebrows rose as his sleeves moved slightly and a majestic force landed directly on Fengling's face. Fengling was forced to fly backwards by this force as she fell heavily onto the broken rocks. It also stopped Fengling's words which she was about to say. Fengling fell onto the ground as her eyes blinked hard, in a daze and astonishment. Following that, she slowly sat up straight. There wasn't a single bit of pain on her face. There was only doubt and puzzlement. This was the preferential treatment of a corpse puppet, not knowing pain. Even if her hands and legs were broken, her brows wouldn't even crease. "Whatever this seat wants to do has nothing to do with you." The icy cold words broke Fengling's nerves. Fengling stood up abruptly as she shook her head in disbelief. "No, don't tell me you've forgotten." "Forgotten what Palace Lord said. You want to betray." The huge agitation made Fengling speechless. She hugged her head as she staggered backwards a few steps. Suddenly, she raised her head as her scarlet venomous gaze stared at Yi Qing Luo. "You slut! Not only did you seduce Brother D, you even made Castle Lord fall head over heels for you. If Brother D knew that you're such a slut, he would definitely not like you." Yi Qing Luo, who was unaccountably implicated. Was this her fault again? Why are you so lucky? If Brother D isn't here, the castle lord will protect you. What on earth are you busy with, for them to do everything for you? I can't accept this, I can't accept this. Feng Ling screamed in pain. The indignation in her heart gradually grew. Zhu Wuxin's appearance caused the puppets to stop attacking. Looking at Zhu Wuxian's attitude of absolute protection, as he stood in front of Yi Qing Luo, Feng Ling's terrifying face was already twisted to the point of deformity. On what basis could Yi Qing Luo be so lucky? No matter what kind of danger it was, it could turn misfortune into fortune. Not Brother D. It was the Death God Castle's castle master. She, on the other hand, was humiliated and turned into a monster that was neither human nor ghost. She didn't even feel pain anymore. This body was already riddled with holes. Why didn't her brother D come to save her when she was in danger? It was all because of Yi Qing Luo. Everything was caused by Yi Qing Luo. Feng Ling's eyes were filled with madness as her eyes revealed an ominous glint as she looked at Zhu Wuxian with a maniacal gaze. Death God Castle Lord, if you insist on interfering in this matter, then don't blame us for accidentally injuring you. Yi Qing Luo must die. As long as Yi Qing Luo died, even if she was punished by Palace Lord. So what? Chapter 3299. The long whip in Feng Ling's hand suddenly swung. When the other corpse puppets saw that, they took a look at Zhu Wuxian and chose to attack directly. That thing was about to awaken. They had no other time to waste here. If the mission failed, the consequences were much more serious than offending Zhu Wuxian. They might as well kill Yi Qing Luo first. As long as Palace Lord's mission was completed, would Palace Lord be calculative about their disrespect towards Zhu Wuxian? They had to admit that these new type of corpse puppets were indeed much more high-end and imposing as compared to those defective products. At least, they knew how to think for themselves. They knew how to choose the most powerful choice for themselves. On seeing the corpse puppets charging forward in unison, Yi Qing Luo tugged Zhu Wuxian's arm from behind as she frowned. Zhu Wuxian, you don't need to do this for me. She didn't want to owe Zhu Wuxian any more favors. Really, she couldn't repay him. Zhu Wuxian lowered his eyes as he looked at that slender and fair hand on his arm. His eyes, which had always been cold and emotionless, actually softened a little. On his face there was a slight smile which was never seen before. Ever since I met you again, it was destined that we would continue to be entangled. You can't escape from it. His voice was suppressed very low. That cold voice had a tinge of indifference, but the words of love which came out had a kind of an overbearing CEO. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as her slender brows creased into a bundle. Not knowing why, she felt that, see you again this time. Zhu Wuxian had undergone a huge change. If it was in the past, even if he had a brother who specialized in cheating his friends behind his back to give him ideas, Zhu Wuxian would absolutely not say such warm words. What on earth was going on? From South Tide Continent, after Zhu Wuxian left the inn with that human face, what had Zhu Wuxian experienced? Furthermore, or was it something related to her? But now wasn't the time to ask. She pursed her pink lips as she knew that it was impossible for her to stop Zhu Wuxian's help. She could only try her best to prevent Zhu Wuxian from worrying too much about her. The corpse puppet's attack had already entered her face. Yi Qing Luo gripped her glower flame fan tightly as she swiftly retaliated. Even though her body was already injured, Yi Qing Luo's battle power was still abnormally strong. In addition, he had Zhu Wuxin's help. Yi Qing Luo's pressure finally wasn't as heavy as before, and that's strenuous. Feng Ling and the other undead corpse puppets were constantly looking for opportunities. Time was getting closer and closer. This made them feel more and more pressured. At this moment, The entire forbidden area suddenly surged with an invisible force. Like rolling waves, it swept through every corner of the forbidden area. Even the ground seemed to shake a few times. The ripple only lasted for a breath's time before it disappeared. It was so fast that no one could catch it. However, Feng Ling's face suddenly turned pale. The other corpse puppets also had ashen faces as they looked towards the depths of the forest. Damn it! It couldn't be so coincidental that the time was brought forward, right? Roar! Suddenly, the low roar of a beast rang out. Then he heard Chi-Chi's panicked voice. Little Ming-Ju! Little Ming-Ju, what happened to you? Shi-Ju! Yi-Ching Luo's breathing paused as she speedily looked towards Shi-Ju's direction. Chapter 30, 300. Shi-Jua. Yi-Ching Luo's pupils contracted as her feet moved, taking quick steps towards Shi-Ju's direction. At the same time, he said to Zhu Wuxin, I'll have to trouble you here. With that, he could no longer wait for Zhu Wuxian's reply. His feet moved like the wind. Shi-Ju's condition was very wrong. It kept hitting the ground with its head. Moreover, his strength was extremely great. It was as if he was going to smash his own head. The black and shiny leopard head was bleeding from the impact. If he didn't stop Shi-Ju's self-harming behavior, Shi-Ju would smash his head and bleed to death. Right now, she couldn't care less about that at all. On the other side, Qi-Yan wanted to stop him. However, the heaven-reaching beast seized this opportunity to attack Shi-Ju. Qi-Yan and Chi-Chi could only stand in front of Shi-Ju and block the attacks of the heaven-reaching beasts. Ao! Roar! Shi-Ju let out a painful growl. His head hit the ground again and again. Bright red blood had already dyed Shi-Ju's head red. The more Yi-Ching Luo watched, the more anxious she felt. She pounced forward and hugged Shi-Ju's head, stabilizing its head and not letting it hit it again. Ow! Shi-Ju's mouth gave out a sharp and rough growl as it struggled, trying to struggle free from Yi-Ching Luo's hands. Yi-Ching Luo's arms were numb from the flinging. At this time, it was even more impossible for her to release Shi-Ju. His hands tightly held Shi-Ju's head in his embrace, gently stroking its fur, and said warmly, Shi-Ju, I'm here. With me here, you need to calm down. Tell me where you feel uncomfortable. Perhaps it was her gentle voice that eased Shi-Ju's pain, or maybe it was the contract between her and Shi-Jua. Under her warm words, Shi-Ju's struggling movements gradually became much gentler, but he still kept whimpering in a low voice. This voice made Yi-Ching Luo's heart ache. She suppressed the panic and worry in her heart and tried to make her mood and tone appear gentle and gentle. Shi-Jua, tell me, where are you uncomfortable? I'll help you take a look. Ao! Shi-Ju growled softly as its head shook gently. His body, although it obeyed Yi-Ching Luo's command, there wasn't the extent of struggling like before. However, due to the sharp pain in its head, its huge body was still struggling and trembling uncontrollably. At this moment, Shi-Ju was able to appear slightly obedient in Yi-Ching Luo's arms, and that was because of the contract between them. Towards Yi-Ching Luo's question, Shi-Ju totally didn't bother to answer it. This kind of Shi-Ju made Yi-Ching Luo's heart twitch fiercely as it became increasingly intense. Her heart ached. He circled Shi-Ju's neck with one hand. One of his hands was quickly searching for something on its smashed head. Shi-Ju's combat form was simply too huge. Yi-Ching Luo's one hand wasn't even able to wrap around half of Shi-Ju's neck. Along with her hand, the action of touching on its head for a long time. Shi-Ju could not help but become restless again. He wholeheartedly wanted to struggle free from Yi-Ching Luo and hit the ground again. In this struggle, Yi-Ching Luo's fingers felt a hard, protruding object on Shi-Ju's head. This touch was very obvious. This was not the feeling of a soul pearl. Yi-Ching Luo's expression changed as she speedily pressed down on Shi-Ju's head, following the place which she had touched earlier as she brushed aside the shiny black fur. As expected, on Shiju's head, nestled in the middle, was a fist-sized black tortoise soul pearl. Chapter 3301. Wait a minute. Not just one. On the other side of the soul bead, there was another similar sized black hard object. What was this thing? It looked as though it had grown two horns, extremely symmetrical. It was these two things which popped out that made Shiju in so much pain. When Yiqing Luo's hand touched the two black hard objects, Shiju's huge body started to tremble violently. Its head was struggling even more violently. Apparently it was in a lot of pain. What on earth was going on? Why did these two things suddenly pop out from Shiju's head? Suddenly, Yiqing Luo heard Zhu Wuxian's sharp cry, "Yiqing Luo! Quickly avoid it!" This sharp cry made Yiqing Luo's expression change as she speedily turned her head around and looked behind her. Right in front of him, he saw a thick and vast palm wind coming towards him. That momentum was like a hot knife through butter. Under this imposing manner, there was no one who was able to avoid it. "Master!" "Stupid human!" She heard Chi-Chi and Shiju's shocked cries. That palm wind had already charged downwards. Bam! The palm wind struck her body and she flew backwards in midair. Following that, she stood on the ground. Her body was still out of control as she staggered several steps backwards. "Chu Zhu Wuxian!" Yiqing Luo stared blankly at the figure in front of her, who was like a green bamboo, standing upright in front of her. Just at the instant when the palm wind struck over, Zhu Wuxian rushed over. He forcefully withstood that palm strike, using his own body to withstand that palm strike. Yiqing Luo's heart felt as though something was piercing her fiercely. Her neck felt as though it was being strangled by something. She found it extremely difficult to even breathe. Why did he block in front of her without any hesitation? That palm strike, how sharp was it? It was impossible for him not to know. But Zhu Wuxian had no hesitation as he blocked in front of her. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. The red-robed man who was standing in front of her slowly turned his head over. His hand was pressed on his chest. His face, which was as cold as jade, was extremely pale. It accentuated his temperament, which made one's heart tremble. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice calm. Yiqing Luo's throat tightened as her slender fingers clenched tightly. "Why do you always have to be like this, disregarding your own life to save me? I don't need you to protect me like this." There was still no change in Zhu Wuxin's expression. "It's good that you're fine." "Zhu Wuxin." Yiqing Luo really didn't know how to face Zhu Wuxian. If Chu Wuxin's feelings for her were purely brotherly, then it would be a different story. She could still accept him sacrificing himself to save her, because if it was anyone else in the devil class, she would do the same, standing in front of them without hesitation. However, Zhu Wuxin was different. Because of Chu Wuxin's feelings and obsession for her, she simply could not face Zhu Wuxin with the feelings she had for her brother. "Now is not the time to criticize me." Zhu Wuxin raised his eyelids and gazed into the distance. "I'm afraid that little battle pet of yours won't last much longer. And I'm afraid I can't deal with those monsters, either." As soon as he finished speaking, a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He raised his hand and slowly wiped away the blood stains on the corner of his lips. His pale lips, which had no color of blood, were stained with a hint of flirtatious color. "Zhu Wuxian." Yiqing Luo immediately stood up, wanting to support Zhu Wuxian. Just now, Zhu Wuxin had taken the full brunt of that palm. If it was her. Chapter 3302. But Yiqing Luo had just released Shiju. A roar came from Shiju's mouth. Soon after, he once again ruthlessly smashed his head against the ground. "Shiju! No!" Yi Qing Luo pounced towards Shiju once again as she hugged its head tightly. Roar! Howl, howl! Shiju struggled crazily as it was filled with pain and growls, making Yi Qing Luo's heart twitch when she heard it. She could not let go of Shiju. Once it was released, Shiju would go crazy. What were those two things on its head? Because it was something that came out of the flesh. Was that why Shiju was in so much pain? Was he trying to knock the two hard objects back by slamming into the ground? Yi Qing Luo hugged Shiju's head tightly as she turned around to look at Zhu Wu Exan, who had already wiped the bloodstains off his lips. Zhu Wu Exan, are you all right? Zhu Wuxin was injured to protect her. She didn't even have a way to support Zhu Wuxin. I'm fine. As though he saw the anxiety in Yi Qing Luo's heart, Zhu Wu Exan slowly shook his head. Don't bother about me. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. Your injury, you can't fight anymore. Zhu Wuxin didn't reply. He just stood in front of her, unwavering, with no intention of leaving. Ha ha ha, what a lovely couple. Wind Chimes, who had succeeded in her ambush, smiled coldly at the two of them. Earlier, Yi Qing Luo's entire heart was placed on Shiju. That was the best chance to get rid of Yi Qing Luo. Without any hesitation, she ordered the other corpse puppets to stop Zhu Wuxin. Following that, he unleashed all the energy in his body towards Yi Qing Luo's direction, gathering it into one palm. But he didn't expect Chu Wu Xian actually broke through the corpse puppet's obstruction and helped Yi Qing Luo to receive this palm strike. But that didn't matter. If it hit Zhu Wuxin, it would be the same, no matter how strong Zhu Wuxin was. Receiving a palm strike that she had poured all of her strength into, she would also suffer from severe internal injuries. He no longer had the ability to protect Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo would definitely die. Wind Chime's eyes were filled with madness, and her killing intent was clear. I'll fulfill your wish. I'll let you be a couple in hell. Wind Chimes' hoarse and sharp laughter was extremely ear-piercing. Number 1, the corpse puppet said, That's the palace lord's partner. We can't touch him. He pointed at Zhu Wu Exan. Fengling's eyes turned sharp as she looked at the undead corpse puppet. That thing's awakening time has been brought forward. If we continue to delay, we will all be finished. Now there is only one way, and that is to join forces and kill both of them. Qing Wu S. Luo after a pause. Her lips curled into a sneer. At that time, if the palace master blames us, we can just tell him the truth, right? The corpse puppets exchanged looks. M.O. In the entire forbidden area, the unique and mysterious airflow rippling in the air was becoming more and more obvious. Zhu Ling Chen Ju, in the end, they chose to listen to wind chimes. In front of him were 5 new undead puppets and wind chimes. The Qing Qing Luo, yelled Yang Shiju, the Wu Yi Wu, Zhu Qing, Tian Qing Tian, Yi Qing Ju Luo Qing Shiju Luo Ishiju was Yi as Ju and Shui was Yi and Luo. But Yi Qing Luo and the rest were obviously at a disadvantage. If time dragged on, even if Qi Yan and Qi Qi were sacred beasts, she wouldn't be able to afford it. Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. Chapter 3303. Ha ha ha. Yi Qing Luo, based on your ability, it's not difficult for you to escape. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's cold expression and tightly knitted brows, Fengling couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her eyes were filled with ridicule towards Yi Qing Luo. What a pity. Our great Madame D is kind-hearted and would never do something like abandoning her companions and leaving alone. She laughed softly, as if she was praising her, but in actual fact it was ridiculing her. Just like earlier, you could obviously avoid my palm strike. But you were worried that once you avoided it, my palm strike would hit that little war pet of yours. I didn't expect you to have a lover to block that palm strike for you. Fengling looked at Zhu Wu Xian in disdain. Lord Castle Lord, how are you going to protect that scoundrel now? Do you think she'll be able to block one more attack?" As she spoke, Fengling covered her mouth and giggled. Extremely carefree laughter, as if she wanted to vent out all the humiliation she had suffered during this period of time. "Yi Qing Luo, since you can abandon your companions, then die here with them." Fengling's last sentence was abruptly raised in volume. At the same time, 50 over heaven-reaching beasts roared in unison. Immediately, they attacked Yi Qing Luo's direction at the same time. Rumble! Suddenly, the entire ground started to shake violently. The sky also turned dark. A bolt of lightning seemed to split open a hole in the sky, just like it opened its bloody mouth. The surrounding air was filled with fluctuations and instantly turned into raging waves, surging and crashing against everything in the surroundings. Roar! The heaven-reaching beasts suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. Lightning and thunder streaked across the horizon and struck the body of the heaven-reaching beast. Bolts of lightning continued to fall. Not long after, the surrounding was filled with a burnt smell of barbecued meat. The heaven-reaching beast's screams became more and more tragic. The sudden change made Fengling's expression change drastically. Upon seeing this, several undead corpse puppets quickly evaded the falling lightning bolts. What's going on? How can the weather change in this place? Fengling screamed at the top of her lungs. Damn it, that scoundrel was actually so lucky. He even had the help of heavenly thunder. Wasn't this forbidden land isolated from the rest of the world? How could the weather change? How could there be lightning? The undead puppets raised their heads and looked at the pitch-black sky. The sky was filled with rolling dark clouds. It was a dark and oppressive scene. Roar, roar, roar! The three-eyed heavenly beasts that had been struck by the lightning bolts were all curled up on the ground, head buried in the ground. His claws hugged his head. He had a pious look on his face. This scene made Fengling so angry that her face contorted. "All of you, stand up. Why are all of you lying on the ground? Wasn't it just a few bolts of lightning? That's enough to scare you." But no matter how wind chimes shouted, the remaining 30 or so heaven-reaching beasts that hadn't been struck were still holding their heads and shivering in fear. Bang! Suddenly there was a loud crash. A bolt of heavenly thunder struck directly on Fengling's entire body was jolted by the electric current. Half of her black robe was charred by the lightning, leaving only a few pieces of cloth hanging on her body. Seeing this, the other dead puppets quickly retreated. They stood in a relatively safe position. What a powerful aura! Chapter 3304. Because of this battle, the surrounding lush trees had all fallen to the ground, revealing that piece of dark and oppressive sky. Yi Qing Luo could also see it clearly. Between the surging dark clouds, there seemed to be something in it, stirring up the clouds and rain. But no matter how Yi Qing Luo looked, she couldn't see clearly what was in it. What the hell is this lightning? Fengling cursed angrily and climbed up from the ground. She had just opened her mouth to curse. Fengling heard a crack sound, the sound of something cracking. Fengling was stunned. This cracking sound was too close, so close as if she was the one who had cracked herself. Cracked? This thought made Fengling's pupils suddenly widen. Almost subconsciously, she took out a dagger from her space pocket. She raised the blade. Ah! A short scream of pain came from Fengling's mouth. She threw the dagger out and held her face with both hands. No. Can't do this. Can't. My face, my face. Crack, crack. There was another crisp cracking sound. Fengling held her head and half squatted on the ground. Just now, she clearly saw her horrifying face reflected on the blade of the knife. Her face was struck by the lightning and turned black. The most horrifying thing was the position from her cheek to her chin. It was cracked into two halves. Moreover, it was not like before when she was a test subject in the secluded palace. Even if her limbs were broken, they could still be reattached. The crack on her chin could not be closed. She couldn't feel any pain. There was no blood in her body. She could only hear the sound of her face cracking. Feng Ling almost collapsed. Even though her face had been completely destroyed, she was still able to maintain her composure. But it didn't mean that she could accept her face being ruined, and it was that kind of shocking destruction. Feng Ling's look just now. Not only those 5 corpse puppets saw it, Yi Qing Luo also saw it clearly. When the 5 corpse puppets saw the situation, they were already afraid of the rolling dark clouds in the sky and the lightning that was about to strike again. Each of them stared at the sky very vigilantly. How could they care about Feng Ling's life or death? Yi Qing Luo retracted her vision. She lowered her eyes and looked at Shiju in her arms. Not knowing when, Shiju stopped struggling. The huge leopard raised its head and stared blankly at the sky. Yi Qing Luo took the opportunity to turn Shiju into its pet form as she hugged it in her arms, and immediately stood up as she hooked Zhu Exan's arm. Let's leave first. Whether that bolt of lightning was friend or foe, no one knew. It could even deal with the new undead puppets. She and the 2 sacred beasts would not have a good time either. Moreover, Shiju's condition had to be resolved. Zhu Wuxin was also seriously injured. We can't delay any longer. Roar! In his embrace, Shiju's mouth emitted a short cry. It struggled fiercely, and while Yi Qing Luo was supporting Zhu Exan to sit on Chi-Chi's back, it rolled out from Yi Qing Luo's embrace. Yi Qing Luo was shocked as her expression changed greatly. Shiju! She supported Zhu Wuxin and immediately rushed towards the direction of Shiju. The tiny Shiju rolled on the ground a few times. Then it raised its head and looked at the sky in a daze. It didn't move at all, just staring at the sky. And the place where Shiju rolled was coincidentally near where Feng Ling was hugging her head. Feng Ling only needed to stretch out her hand and she would be able to grab it. And it was because of this distance. Chapter 3305. Feng Ling caught a glimpse of a black little thing from the corner of her eyes. She held her split face and looked up. She saw the battle pet which Yi Qing Luo doted on was lying by her feet in a daze. That little thing was in the form of a pet, the size of a palm, and looked harmless. Moreover, the little thing stared at the sky without blinking, totally unaware of its own situation. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's worried face, rushing over at an extremely fast speed, Feng Ling's eyes flashed a trace of coldness. She became like this, all because of Yi Qing Luo. She would not be well. Yi Qing Luo would not be well either. Didn't Yi Qing Luo love this little thing? She would kill this little thing right in front of Yi Qing Luo. Let Yi Qing Luo have a taste of heartache. Feng Ling's murderous intent was revealed. Her long legs stretched out and her palm rushed toward Shiju. Feng Ling, don't you dare! Yi Qing Luo's expression changed greatly. Her slender brows knitted into a ball as she gritted her teeth and shouted in a low voice. Shiju had no reaction towards Feng Ling's attack. Yi Qing Luo was anxious, the glower flame fan in her hand. Quickly opened up and struck a wind blade towards Feng Ling. Yi Qing Luo became more anxious. Feng Ling became more complacent. As a result, she neglected, just as she rushed toward Shiju. Shiju's shiny black little body, a ray of green light, shrouded it completely. Bam! In front of her, the green light flickered. Feng Ling's body, like a kite with a broken string, flew out. Following that, she saw a green shadow heavily hit Feng Ling's body that flew out, lying on the ground. Kacha! It was another crisp, breaking sound. Feng Ling's body was directly cut into 2. Feng Ling's eyes widened. Both hands touched her waist. When she touched the bottom, it was empty. She let out a short scream in panic. What was this? What was this thing? Why could it break her body, which had been transformed into a corpse puppet? Feng Ling struggled to lift her body. looked down at the empty direction below her. Immediately, she was completely stunned. That was a huge tail, a green tail. That tail was between her upper body and lower body. It was this tail that broke her body. A deep voice pierced through the air and exploded in his mind. From Yi Qing Luo's angle, they could clearly see the scene in front of him. It was a body that came down from the dark clouds and circled around. Azure light flickered, and azure dragon scales glittered brightly. This was the azure dragon, a gigantic azure dragon. The dark clouds parted. A huge dragon's head slowly lowered. Green dragon. Is it azure dragon? Qi Yan and Qi Qi stared at azure dragon and shouted excitedly, Azure dragon, this was the azure dragon? One of the 4 great sacred beasts, the azure dragon's sacred beast? Yi Qing Luo raised her head and looked at the overbearing and domineering green dragon as a sliver of admiration, and admiration flashed past her eyes. As expected of the head of the 4 great sacred beasts, the azure dragon. This aura is much stronger than Qi Yan's arrogant vermilion bird. The azure dragon's appearance caused the 3-eyed heavenly beasts to lower their heads, even lower with their tails between their legs. Their eyes were filled with horror. Fengling, who was still struggling to lift her hand, fell down heavily. She looked at the place where the azure light was flickering in horror, murmuring in disbelief. Really awakened in advance. Why did she encounter it? She widened her eyes unwillingly. Chapter 3306. Yi Qing Luo was stunned, no matter how much preparation she had done in her heart. When he saw a huge dragon head staring at him face to face, he felt a chill run down his spine. She couldn't help but be stunned on the spot. Her pupils reflected azure dragon's pair of dragon eyes. The dragon's eyes were shrouded with a thin layer of green light. This was Azure Dragon, the leader of the 4 sacred beasts. Azure Dragon, sacred beast. Just a simple close distance. Yi Qing Luo could feel the overbearing pressure from Azure Dragon. This pressure directly pierced through her heart. Even though Azure Dragon had specially concealed his dragon breath to prevent her from being frightened, it was unable to reduce its own existence. You are its owner. Azure Dragon's deep voice suddenly pierced into her mind. Yi Qing Luo blinked. Azure Dragon asked, was it Qi Qi and Qi Yan? She looked at Qi Yan and Qi Qi's direction and nodded. Yes. Azure Dragon's eyes were half squinted and its whiskers were slightly raised as it followed her gaze and looked at Qi Yan and Qi Qi. Because of Azure Dragon's appearance, Qi Yan and Qi Qi were excited and wanted to pounce towards Azure Dragon at any moment. The few of them had not met each other for too long. It was so long that they had almost forgotten those days that they had spent together. It wasn't easy to meet each other again. The 2 sacred beasts met Azure Dragon's line of sight. They immediately recalled Azure Dragon's question earlier. The 2 sacred beasts nodded their heads in unison. Xiao Qi Qi, that's Qi Qi's master, Qi Qi's most beloved master, Qi Ao Jiao. And that stupid human is this sacred beast's master. Don't misunderstand. This sacred beast doesn't like that stupid human. This sacred beast is totally cooperating with Qi Qi. The 2 sacred beasts' eyes were filled with different emotions, but they could tell. The 2 of them liked Yi Qing Luo from the bottom of their hearts. Azure Dragon slowly shifted his dragon eyes onto Yi Qing Luo. The distance between them was very close. It was so close that its whiskers fell on her face. Azure Dragon's deep voice spoke again. I'm not asking about those 2, but its tail slowly curled up that little ball of Shi Ju on the ground and raised it in front of Yi Qing Luo. At this time, Shi Ju completely did not have the insurrection from before. Instead, it raised its small head and blinked its leopard eyes as it stared at the azure dragon curiously. He did not show the respect and fear that an illusory beast would have when seeing a holy beast. Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hand and held Shiju in her arms. The two hard objects on its head that looked like a pair of horns became more and more obvious. Yi Qing Luo touched Shiju as she felt astonished. Azure Dragon was asking about Shiju? Shiju was only a low-level mirage beast. Why did the Azure Dragon ask if Shiju wanted to form a contract with her? Boss Long, you are asking about the black tortoise on the head of Shiju, right? Qi Yan also felt that Azure Dragon could not care about a low-level magical beast for no reason. To tell the truth, when it first contracted with Yi Qing Luo, when he discovered Shiju, this low-level mirage beast, toward Shiju, he was also a little arrogant. It was also because Shiju was really cute and Chi-Chi was matchmaking at the side. It slowly accepted Shiju's existence. So Qi Yan naturally felt that Azure Dragon was asking about the soul pearl which was condensed from the black tortoise's half-soul on Shiju's head. It answered on its own. Black Tortoise has not contracted with her yet, but the half-soul has already been handed over to her. So the contract is just a matter of time. Shiju. Azure Dragon didn't seem to hear the latter half of Qi Yan's sentence. Chapter 3307. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose slightly as her long and narrow eyes squinted as she gazed into Azure Dragon's eyes. If she didn't hear wrongly, just now, when the Azure Dragon roared out, it revealed a feeling of benevolence. That's right, it was benevolence. Azure Dragon toward Shiju benevolence? These few words spun rapidly in her mind. It made her brain go into a daze. This name was given by you. Azure Dragon's eyes stared unblinkingly at that little ball in Yi Qing Luo's arms as he asked softly. Yi Qing Luo lowered her head and looked at the black leopard in her arms. She raised her head again as she took a look at the dragon head which was just inches away from her. No matter what, she was unable to confirm the guess in her heart. This was impossible. This was simply a fantasy story. Yi Qing Luo shook her head as she shook off all those unrealistic thoughts in her mind as she coughed lightly and replied, "This name was given by its mother." Its mother. Azure Dragon's voice seemed to tremble slightly. Yi Qing Luo didn't have the time to listen carefully. Azure Dragon's voice was heard once again. "Have you and Shiju formed a contract?" Yi Qing Luo met with that pair of gentle and nostalgic eyes as she suppressed the doubts in her heart as she slowly nodded. And then Azure Dragon's dragon head leaned nearer to her. The deep and resounding voice revealed a bewitching intent. "Are you willing to form a contract with me? Are you willing to form a contract with me?" This sentence was like a clap of thunder as it struck everyone present, be it beasts or undead puppets, causing them to be crispy on the outside but tender on the inside. Did they hear wrongly? Azure Dragon took the initiative to form a contract with a human? One of the 4 sacred beasts, the leading Azure Dragon's sacred beast, actually took the initiative to form a contract with a human? What was going on? Especially Fengling. She watched as that dragon tail which had split her into 2 moved away and turned towards her enemy, requesting to form a contract. How could she possibly accept this? Azure Dragon. Fengling gritted her teeth as she growled. "Do you know who was the one who helped you to wake up? If it wasn't for us, how could you possibly wake up? We spent so much effort to awaken you, and you actually wanted to betray us." She let out a hysterical roar, accompanied by a cracking sound. The skin that was being torn apart split open again. He heard wind chimes hysteria. The Azure Dragon slowly straightened its body. It flicked its tail and shook its whiskers. The gentleness he had when facing Yi Qing Luo had completely disappeared. The awe-inspiring aura was majestic and powerful. "All of you deserve to die." The Azure Dragon opened his mouth and spat out a stream of dragon breath. The violent airwave blasted the 2 halves of Fengling's body apart. The Azure Dragon swung its tail at Fengling's neck again. In an instant, Feng Ling's neck was separated from her upper body. Even so, Wind Ling's consciousness still existed. She widened her scarlet eyes, which were filled with resentment and unwillingness. Qinglong, you're ungrateful. Aren't you afraid of losing your green dragon's reputation? Azure Dragon's eyes were filled with disdain. His extremely cold and powerful aura washed everything around him. Although I am in a deep sleep state, it does not mean that I am unaware of what is happening in the outside world. You want to wake me up and use me for a monster like you? This is the real damage to my green dragon's prestige. Azure Dragon's tone was extremely calm, as though he was stating an ordinary matter. One word at a time, slowly and clearly enunciated. Chapter 3308. Let me correct one thing. Azure Dragon looked down at Feng Ling, who only had one head left. My awakening has nothing to do with you bunch of monster puppets. Immediately, it turned its head towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The dragon's eyes, which were filled with green light, gradually became more agile. It once again put its head in front of Yi Qing Luo. Word by word, it said in a low voice, "My awakening is because I sensed her summoning." Feng Ling's pupils suddenly shrank, and just at the moment when Azure Dragon's voice fell, Azure Dragon actually used an extremely pious posture as it lowered its head towards Yi Qing Luo and spoke respectfully once again. You summon me to awaken, so are you willing to form a pact with me? A high and mighty dragon, he had always been arrogant. Compared to Qi Yan, he was much more arrogant. But Azure Dragon was so pious in front of Yi Qing Luo. Even Qi and Qi Yan were stunned by this scene. Yi Qing Luo raised her head and exchanged glances with Azure Dragon, that domineering majesty which was exclusive to the Dragon clan. Even if it was restrained, it was inevitable to overflow. Qi and Qi Yan's hearts were lifted up. Their boss Long's temperament, it was still the same as before. Even they, when facing Boss Long, they had to bear the majesty from Boss Long. Their master could only be considered as an ordinary person now. She would definitely be shocked by Boss Long. Qi was thinking of rushing up to help its master to ease the atmosphere. It saw its master meeting Boss Long's gaze. The corners of her lips rose, revealing a brilliant smile. That's right. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Looking at Azure Dragon, she smiled brilliantly and was unfazed. She replied, "Of course I'm willing. My purpose here is for you." Neither servile nor overbearing, neither arrogant nor rash. When she spoke, it was filled with confidence. She was arrogant, but not domineering. She was confident, but not ostentatious. Every inch of his expression, attitude, and tone of voice was perfectly controlled. Azure Dragon's eyes flashed with admiration. He brought his dragon head close to her little palm. "Please form a blood pact with me." Blood pact? Feng Ling was howling in anger. Even the palace lord didn't dare to mention a blood pact. The Azure Dragon actually took the initiative to suggest it. So be it if Azure Dragon took the initiative to form a contract with Yi Qing Luo. He even brought up a blood pact. This was the first time Azure Dragon met Yi Qing Luo. He had to hand over his future to Yi Qing Luo. What was it about Yi Qing Luo that attracted the Azure Dragon? The conversation she heard before she was sent to the Forbidden Land appeared in Feng Ling's mind. It was a conversation between the palace lord's right-hand man. One was called Yu Nu, and the other was Yu Han. The two of them thought that their batch of new undead puppets was still in a coma during the experiment and hadn't woken up yet. Thus, they spoke without restraint. What she remembered very clearly was that lady called Yu Nu said, "You must be careful of the green dragon's awakening. You must not let Yi Qing Luo and the green dragon bump into each other. Otherwise, all your hard work would be wasted." From the very beginning, Darkness Palace had already guessed it. Was there any connection between Azure Dragon and Yi Qing Luo? Why were all the good things monopolized by Yi Qing Luo alone? Fengling could hear the cracks on her face getting bigger. She couldn't care less. A pair of venomous eyes stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo's direction. Chapter 3309. Life and Death Contract completed. When that symbol of the blood contract imprint faintly entered Azure Dragon's head, Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly swayed. Within her body, a surge of powerful energy surged, surging violently, following Azure Dragon's low dragon roar. The rolling became more and more ferocious. She could even hear that surge of energy in her internal organs. It kept crashing and slapping. At the profound jade heart, the scorching heat was surging rapidly. Your profound jade heart. Azure Dragon was slightly shocked as he looked at the pair of eyes closed, absorbing the fused energy after the contract between the two. The smile in its eyes became even more pronounced. Profound jade heart. When Fengling heard this word, she was stunned. She suddenly recalled the two black-robed men she met in the dark forces. A dark glint flashed past her eyes. Profound jade heart. Right. Yi Qing Luo, your profound jade heart. As though she had finally found a way to defeat Yi Qing Luo, Fengling laughed crazily. That's the tranquil bead. Do you still remember? Did you really think that I'm kind enough to give you the tranquil bead? You don't know, that tranquil bead was actually given by a black-robed man. Ah. Her crazy words had yet to finish. Suddenly, a miserable cry was heard. A burst of black energy turned into a sharp blade, stabbing straight into Fengling's face. Fengling only had time to let out that miserable cry. Her entire face, with that sharp blade as the center, started to crack. With a paw sound, it split into pieces. His entire head had been reduced to pieces. Such a movement made Yi Qing Luo open her eyes. Her vision coincidentally saw those few corpse puppets in front, retracting their attacking hands. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's gaze locked onto them, they exchanged glances, their expressions congealed. Go! Their words fell. The figures of the 5 corpse puppets, like black smoke, blended into the air. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased. It wasn't that she didn't want to chase those 5 corpse puppets, but now because the fused energy in her body was about to break through. There was no way to move. Master. Chi-Chi's worried little voice rang softly beside her ear. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath and suppressed the scorching agitation of her profound heart jade. She had heard what Fengling had said just now. The tranquil orb that she had obtained from Fengling, the tranquil orb that had suppressed the agitation of her profound jade heart, had been examined by Xian and her ghost, Dr. Master. There should be no problem. But wind chimes said, was there something wrong with the tranquility bead? Was it a smokescreen that he purposely left behind before he died? No, that should be impossible. Otherwise, the 5 corpse puppets wouldn't have killed Fengling in the end to silence her. If there was a problem with the tranquility bead, would it affect the profound heart jade if she was placed inside it? Calming bead. Azure Dragon asked in confusion. Immediately after, Yi Qing Luo felt a surge of energy slowly pacifying her restlessness from her profound jade heart. It was Azure Dragon. It was searching for her profound heart jade. After a while, Azure Dragon said calmly, "There's nothing strange about this pearl. This profound heart jade of yours is too powerful. Your ability is not enough to match up to it. This tranquil orb coincidentally suppresses this profound heart jade of yours, in case you suffer from the backlash of the profound heart jade. To you, it's only beneficial and harmless." Even Azure Dragon said so, which also meant that this tranquil orb. Indeed, there shouldn't be any problem, but in her heart there was an uneasy premonition. Chapter 3310. Lass. Suddenly, a calm and hoarse voice rang in Yi Qing Luo's mind. That voice was so familiar and warm that it made her eyes redden. Psong, Old Man Psong. This voice was Old Man Psong's voice, without a doubt. Old Man Psong's voice, which had disappeared for a long time. Yi Qing Luo's heart started to palpitate violently. Even the fused energy in her body seemed to have sensed the agitation in her heart as it started to surge wildly. Lass, don't think about other things first. Concentrate on condensing your qi. Stabilize your state of mind and break through first. This is the only opportunity like this. Old Man Psong calmly appeased Yi Qing Luo's emotions. After you break through, we'll talk about other things, all right? That steady voice, which sounded like a clear spring, easily soothed the restlessness and uneasiness in her heart. It made her feel very safe. Right she now. She had to work hard to fuse with the contracted Azure Dragon's energy. Only by breaking through to the profound grade would she be able to obtain even stronger power. Only then would she be able to protect herself, the people around her, and her companions. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath as she pressed on the rising temperature of her profound jade heart. Her vision slowly swept past those few battle pets who were looking at her worriedly, and those heaven-reaching beasts who were crawling on the ground, shivering. Finally, it landed on Zhu Wu Exan, who was leaning against the broken tree with a pale face, but his eyes were filled with burning emotions. She pursed her lips and didn't avoid Zhu Wu Exan's gaze. Zhu Wu Exan, these pills are all refined by me. Saying that, she took out more than 10 bottles from the profound phoenix ring, bottles and jars, and threw them all towards Zhu Wu Exan. Zhu Wu Exan's sleeve swept as he caught those bottles and jars steadily. After throwing the bottles, Yi Qing Luo only felt a buzzing sound in her mind, making the dizziness in front of her become more obvious. And it was because of this dizziness. She didn't have the energy to pick out any pills suitable for Zhu Wu Exan's consumption or external use from the profound phoenix ring. Perhaps it was because, after contracting the Azure Dragon, the fusion of energy, her senses, at this moment, soared to the highest point. She could clearly feel that in this forbidden ground, there was a subtle flow of air which she couldn't see, little by little, surging towards her. Then it wrapped around her. An indescribable feeling invaded her body and mind. She stopped thinking about it and immediately sat down cross-legged. Just as he closed his eyes, his qi sank into his dantian, and his mental energy gathered in the profound jade heart. Suddenly, the dizziness in his mind and the buzzing sound were brushed by something cold. Her entire body was clear and bright. Whoosh! The majestic, profound glow encircled Yi Qing Luo's surroundings as it started to revolve. The scorching heat of the profound heart jade began to rise. Yi Qing Luo could clearly feel her own aura rising rapidly. Even if he didn't open his eyes, Yi Qing Luo's heart seemed to be able to see the circles of qi waves in the air, seeping into her body. As the profound light spread, the aura within his body increased. That ice-cold sense of clarity gradually dissipated. Instead, it was a blazing fire. Oh! Yi Qing Luo groaned. Such a change in profound strength. This meant that she was currently touching the barrier of advancement. As long as this barrier was broken, he poured all the dark force in his body into it. She would be able to advance successfully. Chapter 33:11. Yi Qing Luo stabilized her state of mind as she tried her best to adjust the profound energy in her body. The more it was like this, the more he couldn't panic. After reaching the profound sky realm, every promotion or breakthrough was extremely important. If his mind became unstable, his thoughts were a mess, a weak point in the consciousness, it was very likely that it would cause the profound energy within the body to go berserk and cause the profound heart jade to go out of control. As a result, he went berserk. In the worst case, his body would explode and he would die. The spiritual land of heaven and earth kept moving towards the direction where Yi Qing Luo was sitting cross-legged. Around her, the speed of rotation was also gradually increasing. The girl's fiery red dress fluttered in the wind. Her hair was still flying in the air. A thin layer of light enveloped the girl. It made her seem even more like a fairy from the 9 heavens that had descended to the mortal world, pure and elegant beyond compare. Zhu Wuxian's cold eyes stared closely at the girl's face. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He seemed to be thinking about something. His brows slowly furrowed. The emotions in his eyes became more and more complicated. He seemed to be in a dilemma, but also seemed to be hesitating. Dong! There was a soft sound. The medicine bottle in his hand fell to the ground, creating a loud noise. It also awakened his meditative thoughts. Zhu Wuxin retracted his gaze and stared at the white porcelain bottle on the ground. After a long time, he reached out and picked up the bottle. There were more than a dozen white porcelain bottles in his wide palm, and a faint medicinal fragrance wafted out. His eyes darkened. It was as if a hand had reached out from his heart and strangled it. He pursed his lips, stiffly raised his hand, and opened one of the bottles. The fragrance that assailed the nostrils indicated that the quality of the pill was extremely high, indicating that the alchemist's attainments were extremely profound. He smelled it and poured one out. They were pearl-like, exquisitely carved pills. He didn't hesitate or think too deeply about what kind of medicine it was. He stuffed the pill into his mouth and swallowed it. Or perhaps, even if the pill in his hand was poisonous, as long as Yi Qing Luo gave it to him. He didn't bat an eyelid and was willing to endure the hardship. Is it worth it? In his mind, he suddenly recalled the question that person had asked earlier. That was a question he could not answer. That person's words were filled with the courage to bewitch people. He could feel it very clearly. Even for him, his mind was somewhat restrained. No, to be more precise, because in that person's words, the main topic revolved around Yi Qing Luo. Therefore, his mind was affected. Was it worth it? For a girl who no longer had him in her heart, and who loved another man deeply. He gave up the dream he once had. He gave up the position that he had obtained through countless sweat and blood. He had given up all the things that he had always insisted on. He was even willing to die for her. Was it really worth it? He had asked himself this question countless times. He could not get an answer, even if, obviously knowing that the young lady in front of him was very possibly not Yi Qing Luo. Zhu Wuxin closed his eyes. The expression on his face and the aura he exuded. It was a rare feeling of loneliness and hesitation. In his mind, he couldn't help but think back to that day when he left the inn in South Wave Continent. Memory. Zhu Wuxin had not gone far from Valley Wind City. The human face hidden in his arm appeared on his skin. Castle Lord, thank you for saving me. The human-faced skin expressed its gratitude respectfully. However, just as he expressed his gratitude, the next moment, the human-faced skin felt a tearing pain. Chapter 33:12. The human-faced skin's mouth gave out a painful shriek. Castle Lord, what are you doing? I'm going to be torn apart, torn apart. Zhu Wuxian's 5 fingers pinched the human face skin tightly. A raging force spread out from his fingertips. The human face skin could feel the tearing pain as it kept on tearing its face skin. The human face skin begged for mercy in terror. Castle Lord, please spare my life. Castle Lord, I didn't intentionally hide on your body and pollute your body. I really have no choice. It thought that Zhu Wuxian was specially sent by the revered one to save it, but Zhu Wuxian's entire body was filled with raging flames, but it totally didn't seem like he was trying to save it. That's right, it was raging, although Zhu Wuxian was expressionless and his eyes were calm. That pair of icy cold eyes didn't seem to have any fluctuations, but as the human face skin, through Zhu Wuxian's skin contact, it could clearly sense the rage in Zhu Wuxian's chest. The human face skin panicked. The more it begged for mercy, the more intense the pain on its face became. The human face skin was filled with terror. If Zhu Wuxian used any more strength, its human face skin might really be torn apart. If the human face skin was torn apart, its grievance would also be torn apart. It would completely disappear from this world. The human face skin hurriedly opened its mouth. Castle Lord, I really didn't do it on purpose. I just want to stay alive and report to Palace Lord about the progress of the mission. Castle Lord, you and Palace Lord have worked together for such a long time, and you should know Palace Lord's temper. I am also. You shouldn't have made a move on her. Zhu Wuxian's icy cold voice interrupted the human face skin's explanation. The pair of icy cold eyes met indifferently with the human face skin's eyes. The human face skin was stunned. Her? Castle Lord you're talking about. Which her? His words had just ended. Zhu Wuxian's fingers increased in strength. The human face skin was in so much pain that it grimaced in pain as it cried out miserably. However, this pain also made it understand. The person whom the Castle Lord was talking about was Yiqing Luo. Hiding in the Castle Lord's body, the human face skin was still paying attention to the situation outside. It naturally noticed that the Castle Lord was taking care of Yiqing Luo. At first, the human face thought that, for the sake of the Venerable One, the Castle Lord purposely sacrificed himself to save it. However, feeling the fury of Castle Lord, Zhang Tai felt that Castle Lord was infuriated. Only then did the human skin realize it wasn't fake. Castle Lord's care and feelings towards Yiqing Luo were all real. Castle Lord, it's not my fault. I'm just following an order. The human face was so scared that he wanted to cry. Suddenly, Zhu Wuxin raised his head. He loosened his grip on the man's face. A pair of emotionless eyes stared straight ahead. Since you're here, why hide? Ha ha ha. As expected of great Fort Master Chu, every time he would be able to discover my presence. In the direction that Zhu Wuxin was looking at, a tall, mysterious person shrouded in a black robe walked out. That laughter was deep and resounding. From the sound of it, he should be a man who was at least 30 years old. Zhu Wuxin's expression didn't fluctuate at all. What are you here for? To see if my plan is progressing smoothly. The mysterious black-robed man replied frankly. In an instant, he was already standing in front of Zhu Wuxin. The human face skin in Zhu Wuxin's hands trembled slightly as a terrified expression surfaced. Palace Lord. Chapter 30, 313. Zhu Wuxin's face turned even colder, a cold light in his eyes. You shouldn't have touched her. Facing the invisible pressure released by Zhu Wuxin, the mysterious black-robed man laughed out loud. The mysterious black-robed man burst into laughter. Fort Master Chu, are you planning to harm our cooperation for a woman? Zhu Wuxin's fingers tightened. That human face was pinched in his palm. The extreme pain made the human face cry for help. Palace Master, save me, save me. The mysterious black-robed man stood still. He had no intention of making a move, nor did he open his mouth to plead for the human face. Rip! A tearing sound was heard. The human face's screams stopped abruptly, turning into pieces. Zhu Wuxin's face was cold, and he waved his hand. The pieces of human face fluttered in the wind. At this time, the mysterious black-robed man spoke. Have you calmed down? Just as the mysterious black-robed man's voice fell, Zhu Wuxin's figure moved, and he charged towards a person in front of him with endless and terrifying profound energy. The mysterious black-robed man didn't dodge. A punch landed heavily on the mysterious black-robed man's chest. The mysterious black-robed man's body flew backward. The tip of his foot drew a deep mark on the ground behind him. He clutched his chest, and a hoarse and muffled groan came from his throat. Zhu Wuxin frowned. Why didn't you dodge? The mysterious black-robed man slowly steadied his body and swayed. How will you calm down if I dodge? Zhu Wuxin retracted his hand, but his face was still as cold as ice. In the future, if you attack her without my knowledge again, don't blame me for becoming enemies with you. The mysterious black-robed man laughed in a low voice. This laugh seemed to cause a sharp pain in his chest, and he coughed a few more times. I didn't expect Castle Master Chu to be such an infatuated person. Zhu Wuxin's face was cold and he didn't speak. The mysterious black-robed man seemed to be long used to Zhu Wuxin's indifferent character. He leaned against a tree trunk at the side and said with a low laugh, "Is it worth it? Is it worth it?" Zhu Wuxin's eyes flickered, but he still didn't speak. Castle Master Chu, you should know better than anyone that the person you want is not her at all. The mysterious black-robed man slowly raised his hand and stretched it out towards him. Why do you keep deceiving yourself? It's better to cooperate with this consort. As long as our plan succeeds, it'll be a piece of cake for you to find her. The voice of the mysterious black-robed man was full of bewitchment. How could she not be her? Zhu Wuxen suddenly raised his head, the coldness in his eyes even more intense. Not sure if he was trying to convince himself or the person in front of him. She is Yiqing Luo. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, Three Springs sect would have discovered it long ago. On her wrist, there was a unique birthmark. The profound heart jade in her body is also truly only compatible with her. Zhu Wuxian's voice became increasingly hurried. Right now, she is becoming stronger and stronger, and her transformation is becoming greater and greater. This is all because she has learned how to properly use her profound heart jade. Zhu Wuxin's eyes were no longer as calm and composed as before, because of his impatience and the depression in his heart. He didn't notice at all the hand which the mysterious black-robed man stretched out towards him moved slightly, whereas earlier the human face which was shredded by Zhu Wuxian fluttering in the skies. It actually followed the command of the mysterious black-robed man's hand. It turned into a wisp of black-colored smoke as it merged into Zhu Wuxian's body. Ha ha ha! After confirming that the black-colored smoke had completely merged into Zhu Wuxian's body, the mysterious black-robed man laughed softly. Chapter 33:14. Because of this seemingly laughing yet not laughing, yet ridiculing voice, Zhu Wuxian steadied his state of mind as he regained his usual coldness. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at you, the castle lord of Death God Castle, heartless, destitute, and heartless, actually learned to deceive yourself and others. The black-robed, mysterious man hit the nail on the head as he ridiculed impolitely. Zhu Wuxian's expression sunk as his icy cold eyes burst with murderous intent. Castle Lord Chu, do you think those excuses of yours are able to deceive your own heart? The black-robed, mysterious man wasn't afraid of Zhu Wuxian's murderous intent as he asked with a smile. Zhu Wuxian's expression congealed as the radiance in his cold eyes slowly dimmed. The black-robed, mysterious man laughed lightly. The laughter seemed to be filled with ridicule and ridicule. It made Zhu Wuxian's heart inexplicably shrouded with a layer of restless and chaotic emotions. That restlessness made his emotions faintly emit a sliver of impatient anger. Just at this moment, the black-robed, mysterious man suddenly appeared in front of him. Both hands were placed on his shoulders. Under the black robe, the pair of sinister eyes made one feel as though they had fallen into an ice house. Their four eyes met. Immediately following that, the black-robed, mysterious man's bewitching voice rang. Castle Lord Chu, have you heard of possession? Possession? Chu Wuxian's expressionless face had some changes. His icy cold and dim eyes were gradually covered with a layer of thin ice. You should have sensed it yourself. The black-robed, mysterious man laughed softly. the person whom you want wholeheartedly has long changed her soul. Zhu Wuxin's pupils constricted slightly. The black-robed, mysterious man had been observing Zhu Wuxian's changes. Following that, according to the changes in Zhu Wuxian's expression, he used a different tone as he continued bewitchingly. The soul in that body is not the person who had once pledged eternal love with you. The soul in that body now is the person who had seized the real Yiqing Luo's body. She is your enemy. As the black-robed mysterious man's voice and tone gradually became heavier, the changes in Zhu Wuxian's pupils became more and more obvious. His emotions also fluctuated intensely because of the black-robed mysterious man's words. For Master Chu, what you need to do is to see our cooperation through to the end. Only by ascending to the peak that we want to reach. Then you will be able to summon back the real Yiqing Luo soul and let the real Yiqing Luo return to your side. After saying the last word, the mysterious black-robed man gently patted Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. Zhu Wuxin shuddered. That pair of emotionless eyes faintly revealed a trace of deep darkness. From the perspective of the mysterious black-robed man, I can see it clearly as his bewitchment deepened. The black smoke slowly seeping out of Zhu Wuxin's head became more and more obvious. The mysterious black-robed man's thin and cold lips gently curled up. His sinister and treacherous eyes were filled with a complacent smile. End of recollection. Indeed, it was just as Zhu Wuxin had thought. The pills which Yiqing Luo refined were all top-grade pills. After taking it, the effects were quickly seen. The pain in his injured internal organs also gradually subsided. His breathing had also become much smoother. He opened his eyes and his vision unknowingly shifted onto Yiqing Luo, looking at the young lady with her eyes shut, with a serious and strict expression. In his mind, the black-robed, mysterious man's words surfaced once again. Is he going to take over my body? The soul in this body had already changed into another soul. It was the current soul. Had it seized the Yiqing Luo, which belonged to him? Chapter 33:15. But why? When he saw the young lady in front of him, that throbbing in his heart instead. Compared to when he was young, when he first met Yiqing Luo, it was even more passionate. Oh! This thought flashed past his mind. Zhu Wuxian only felt a sudden, swelling pain in his head, as though his entire head was about to explode. That labor pain, even he who was long used to any kind of pain, couldn't help but groaned. The pain was so distraught that he didn't have any other thoughts to think about his feelings towards Yiqing Luo. At this moment, the young lady who had her eyes shut tightly and was concentrating on her advancement suddenly shuddered. A strong, profound ray was released from her body. Bam! Yiqing Luo heard a muffled sound exploding in her mind. The profound energy in her profound jade heart shook. She suddenly opened her eyes. The profound ray released from her body became brighter and brighter as it spread in all directions. Roar, roar, roar. In the forbidden grounds, numerous demonic beasts howled towards the sky. The profound ray, after the radiance, slowly returned to calmness. Bit by bit, with an extremely slow speed, it started to retract. At the same time, no matter if it was the demonic beasts, sacred beasts, or Zhu Wuxian by the side, they could all clearly feel. The young lady's imposing manner was rising bit by bit, following the profound ray gathering on her body, when she was completely enveloped within. Bam! In the air, another burst of spirit wave vibrations was heard. Advanced, sky profound 4th grade. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as the qi waves from her body shook. She had succeeded, successfully leapfrogging to sky profound 4th grade. One must know that after sky profound realm, every grade was as difficult as ascending to heaven. She had successfully leapfrogged 3 grades. If this news were to spread, the entire Nirvana realm would probably be in an uproar. Yi Qing Luo could feel it. This time, her advancement felt different from the past. After the advancement was successful, her sensing towards the surrounding qi waves and the heaven and earth spiritual qi was much more obvious than before. Moreover, her control towards her profound jade heart had also increased by a lot. Ha! Ha ha ha! Lass, I knew you could do it. In the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Song's excited laughter was heard. Good lass, I'm so happy. Ha ha ha! Old Song, hearing the familiar laughter, Yi Qing Luo's smile became more radiant. I'm very happy to be able to advance, but what makes me even happier is… Old Man Song, you're back. Old Man Song's laughter slightly paused. Soon after, he continued with a smile. This old man is still counting on you to reconstruct this old man's body. Unless you don't want this old man anymore, this old man will always follow you. Yi Qing Luo also smiled, but her eyes were slightly red. I won't abandon you, never again. Old Man Song's laughter gradually became somewhat choked with emotion. This is something to be happy about. Why did you make the atmosphere so emotional? Qian shouted discontentedly. Ugly woman, you can successfully promote. At least you did not lose this holy beast's face. It is worthy of praise. Qi pounced forward and hugged Yi Qing Luo's face with its little paws in pet form. Master is the best. The addition of the two battled pets eased the tension. Yi Qing Luo touched the two little companions' heads and immediately carried Qi as she walked towards Zhu Wuexin. Are you all right? Zhu Wuxin was still staring at her in a daze. His usually cold and aloof eyes were a little empty, until Yi Qing Luo's finger waved in front of Zhu Wuexin's eyes. Chapter 33:16. In his hand, her skin was soft and fragrant. The familiar fragrance made Zhu Wuexin relax his strength immediately, but the hand which was holding her wrist didn't loosen up. Yi Qing Luo shrank back. Zhu Wuexin tightened his grip slightly as his cold eyes met hers. I don't understand your medicine. I've only taken one pill in this bottle and it still hurts. Help me take a look. Calm tone, calm expression. But why did the words he said sound like acting coquettishly? Yi Qing Luo took a look at the bottle, which Zhu Wuexin's other hand was holding. That was a pain-killing pill, although it had some effect on treating internal injuries. But the main effect was to stop the pain. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the scattered medicine bottles by his leg. Let go of me first. I'll apply the medicine for you. Let go, I'll hurt. Zhu Wuexin said without any change in expression. Yi Qing Luo, he had already taken the pain-killing pill. What was there to hurt? Using this as an excuse, wasn't he afraid that his aloof, male god image would collapse? Recalling the time in South Tide Continent, Zhu Wuexin used his own face to invade his arm as an excuse. All kinds of acting coquettishly. All right, his persona had long since collapsed, but now it felt that it had collapsed even more. Previously, even if Zhu Wuexin said sweet words and did romantic things, that still retained his cold and aloof nobility. But for some reason now, she felt that Zhu Wuexin had become more gentle, like as though he had suddenly thought through something and was ready to go all out. Go all out? This feeling made Yi Qing Luo feel uneasy when she faced Zhu Wuexin. Gratitude was gratitude, but she didn't love Zhu Wuexin, nor could she give Zhu Wuexin any hope. Facing such a Zhu Wuexin, as compared to the past, the pressure was even greater. She exerted force and retracted her hand. The expression on her face was very indifferent and serious. Zhu Wuexin, I can't be bothered to repeat the unnecessary words since you won't listen to it. She stood up and stared at Zhu Wuexin's pale and stern face. If you're willing to treat your injuries, I'll do it for you now. If not, we'll leave the forbidden grounds now. Zhu Wuexin raised his head, slightly as his icy cold eyes gazed deeply at her face, while listening to her mouth, saying those serious and earnest words. The light in his cold eyes dimmed little by little. In the end, his eyes were like stagnant water. Yi Qing Luo's heart jolted. Zhu Wuxin's current appearance could indeed make one feel a sense of guilt in one's heart. It was as if it was because of her words. Zhu Wuxin lost all his life force. That's right, it was vitality. It was as if all the auras in the area had suddenly gone dark and faded away. This feeling made Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. She shouldn't waver, no matter how much guilt and gratitude he felt towards Zhu Wuxin, because this man was too stubborn. His obsession was already deeply rooted in his bones. No matter how much she refused, Zhu Wuxin probably wouldn't listen at all. I don't love him, no matter how much concern and obedience. To him, they were all cruel. She could only use her own actions to show her attitude. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath, turned around, and said to the few battle pets, "Go pick the gold magnetic spirit grass first." The few battle pets raised their tails and blinked their eyes as they looked behind Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo spoke calmly. If he's not willing to cooperate with the treatment of his internal injury, then don't bother about him. Saying that, she had already walked towards the direction of the gold magnetic spirit grass. The few battle pets looked at each other in dismay for a moment. Chapter 30, 317. And, just as the other battle pets were chasing after Yi Qing Luo, Zhu Wuxan's vision had been congealing on Yi Qing Luo as his dull pupils shook slightly in his eye sockets. A wisp of black smoke. From his head it slowly dispersed. The hands hanging by the side of his body slowly clenched. The green dragon, who vaguely sensed something amiss, raised its whiskers as it suddenly looked towards Zhu Wuxan. Coincidentally, it heard Zhu Wuxan's cold voice rang. "I'll cooperate with the treatment." The green dragon narrowed its eyes. Could it be that it had sensed wrongly earlier? Plop! Suddenly, a soft sound was heard from the side. The green dragon lowered its head and saw beside its huge dragon body a small lump of black little thing with its 4 limbs facing the sky, lying by its side. The green dragon lowered its eyes. The little black ball fluttered its 4 limbs, trying to get up from the ground. But the more anxious it was, the more it could only flop on the ground. That little black ball was so small, just like a small mole on the huge green dragon's body. The green dragon's flame was completely retracted. The dragon body swiftly turned into an ordinary size. It lowered its dragon head and used its whiskers to gently touch the little black ball. Its noble and dignified self was now emitting a loving feeling. And it was because of this episode. The green dragon didn't delve into the strange aura which it sensed from Zhu Wuxan earlier. Yi Qing Luo heard Zhu Wuxan's words. Her footsteps halted as she turned around and walked back to Zhu Wuxan's side without saying a word, as she half squatted down. Her hand was just about to stretch out towards the 10 over medicinal bottles on the ground. Her wrist was once again held by Zhu Wuxan. Yi Qing Luo's expression sunk. Zhu Wuxan! Zhu Wuxan only held her wrist, as he slowly pushed her hand away and let go of her hand. "These medicinal pills, since you've already thrown them to me, then they belong to me." A deep and cold, magnetic voice floated down from the top of her head. Yi Qing Luo. If he wanted the medicinal pills, which she had refined, to say so directly, using such an awkward method, didn't he find it childish? Yi Qing Luo only assumed that Zhu Wuxan had taken a fancy to the high-quality medicinal pills, which she had refined and wanted to keep it for future use. After all, in the Nirvana realm, the value of the pill was immeasurable. Some people were even willing to give up their entire family fortune in order to obtain a single pill. So, Yi Qing Luo couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. Zhu Wuxin wanted the pill. Yi Qing Luo felt that it wasn't bad to use medicinal pills to repay Zhu Wuxian's kindness. Therefore, he took out some internal injury healing elixirs from the profound phoenix ring and began to treat Zhu Wuxin. This time, Zhu Wuxin was very quiet. Even Yi Qing Luo had touched his wound. His expression didn't change at all. Even his eyelashes did not tremble. He just quietly stared at the scattered medicine bottles at his feet. No one knew what he was thinking. After a moment of silence, there were many small wounds on Zhu Wuxin's body. For some injuries, even if painkillers were swallowed, they would still hurt when the medicine was applied. But Yi Qing Luo didn't even hear the change in Zhu Wuxian's breathing. This man, don't tell me they're like the undead puppets and have no senses? Yi Qing Luo was bandaging his wound as she raised her eyes. The man's cold face was reflected in her eyes from a close distance. He was indeed handsome like a jade. His entire face seemed as though it was carved out of a beautiful jade, adding on to that pair of cold eyes which seemed to see through all the coldness and warmth of the world. That imposing manner which was isolated from the world was unattainable, it could be said. Chapter 30, 318. Such a good-looking man. Why couldn't he get over it? To insist on being obsessed with her. To tell the truth, as long as he slightly retracted that icy cold aura. What warmth did he not have? Perhaps it was because Yi Qing Luo's gaze was too scorching. The man raised his head and his icy cold eyes coincidentally met with her charming eyes. His thin lips moved slightly as his cold voice carried a tinge of iciness. Why? Finally realized that this face of mine is more attractive than him? Yi Qing Luo, who was caught sneaking a peek, didn't dare to show any expression. Instead, she openly stared at him directly. The man's lips curled as the exquisite cold lines on his face became gentler. If you want to look, I can let you look for a lifetime. Yi Qing Luo. This fellow, when did he learn the tactic of seducing a man? Yi Qing Luo increased the strength in her hand as she pressed on his wound. This face of yours is indeed good-looking, but I still prefer my Xian's face more. A man who didn't show any signs of change when she applied medicine or when she pressed on his wound. After she finished saying the sentence, all the muscles on his body suddenly tightened. The pressure on his body at this instant sank. Yi Qing Luo was very close and could feel it very clearly, but she didn't mind it and pretended that she didn't notice it, unknowingly displaying their affection. This was also the way to make Zhu Wuxian give up. She continued to apply medicine. He remained silent. The atmosphere became even more treacherous than before. The other few companions had long shrunk to one side, avoiding this kind of atmosphere. Yi Qing Luo increased her speed. Very quickly, she tied the last piece of bandage. Following that, she took half a step back. If you have any questions to ask me, just ask. Zhu Wuxian was the first to break the silence. As long as it's something you ask, I will answer it. Yi Qing Luo. He thought that she kept staring at him because she was hesitating if she should carry out a series of questions and answers. Although, when she saw Zhu Wuxian appearing in the forbidden grounds, she indeed had questions to ask. Later on, she heard the conversation between him and Fengling. The questions she wanted to ask were even more. But she wanted to ask didn't mean that she would really ask. If Zhu Wuxian wasn't willing to say, she wouldn't ask either. Just now, she was merely staring at him. Everyone had their own secrets. A person like Zhu Wuxin, like Dmo Xian, they were both mysterious and powerful existences. It was inevitable for him to have secrets. But she looked into Zhu Wuxin's emotionless eyes. Yi Qing Luo's mind suddenly recalled what Zhu Wuxian said at that time. Now, no matter what changes happen, I will always protect you. This is something that will never change. Then there was the sound of wind chimes. Didn't you already know everything? Why did you still save her? These two sentences made Yi Qing Luo swallow the words that were at the tip of her tongue. In the end, she still asked, "You are working with the Palace of Gloomy Shadows, right?" The answer was very obvious. Zhu Wuxi nodded. "Yes. You appearing here, is it arranged by the Nether Palace?" Yi Qing Luo asked again. "No." Zhu Wuxin looked at her firmly. "I came here because of you." "Me?" Yi Qing Luo was disrupted by his words, as the firm guess in her heart was disrupted. Chapter 30, 319. "So, you heard that the Palace of Umbra is going to attack me in the forbidden area of the East Continent, so you rushed over." Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips slightly as she continued. "This piece of forbidden grounds, because of the sealing of the Azure Dragon's energy. It's impossible for humans to get close to this place, since you're not relying on the Palace of Gloom to stand here safe and sound. Then, why are you all right?" This question caused Zhu Wuxin to be slightly stunned. The calmness on his face also disappeared. He frowned slightly. "You don't believe me?" "I believe that you won't hurt me," Yi Qing Luo replied without any hesitation. Her voice was resolute and straightforward. "But I don't believe the secluded palace. You don't want me to cooperate with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, right?" Zhu Wuxin lowered his eyes, his gaze a little gloomy. He brought up the topic of his identity. Yi Qing Luo knew that he didn't want to say it. She didn't pursue the matter. Instead, he followed Zhu Wuxin's words and replied, "I hope that it won't affect your cooperation with the Palace of Darkness." Before he could finish, Zhu Wuxin hurriedly interrupted her. "As long as you do not wish for it, I will not cooperate." His tone was still cold and indifferent. However, his eagerness and the emotions overflowing from his eyes were filled with hope. It was as if he was waiting for her to take the initiative to speak. Yi Qing Luo looked at him fixedly. Their eyes met for a moment. She stood up. Her beautiful face was emotionless. "Zhu Wuxin, we are not on the same path. You are working with the Palace of Gloomy Shadows because you need to make use of them. As for me, I am destined to be the enemy of the Palace of Darkness. Even though we don't have any conflicts of interest now, we will still become enemies in the end." Her eyes were calm. Just like that, he looked down on Zhu Wuxin. "Chu Wuxian, no matter how firm your feelings for me are, what's more important is your own goal. Just like me, even if I feel guilty and grateful to you, I won't coexist peacefully with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness because of this. Just like the Gloomy Palace, even though we're working together, they won't give up just because of your feelings for me." Her words were very realistic. It was also a fact, because the two of them did not choose the same path. No matter how much Zhu Wuxin felt that he wouldn't hurt her and could even go against the Palace of Darkness to protect her, the premise of all this was that he would not hurt her and protect her, and it would not affect his own interests. Just like what happened in the forbidden area of the East Wave continent this time. It was obvious that the Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted the Azure Dragon. This was not difficult to guess. After all, when the Vermilion Bird was about to awaken, the Dark Forces had spent a lot of manpower and resources to obtain the Vermilion Bird. He had almost taken control of Vermilion Bird. Now, the White Tiger, the Vermilion Bird, and half of the Black Tortoise's soul were in her hands. Be it because the Azure Dragon was the head of the 4 great divine beasts, it was the strongest. By contracting the Azure Dragon, the Gloomy Palace's strength would increase greatly. Or was it to prevent Yi Qing Luo from gathering the 4 sacred beasts? The Darkness Palace would definitely be eyeing Azure Dragon. But now, the Azure Dragon still fell into her hands. The interests of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness were severely damaged. However, to Zhu Wuxin, there were no benefits involved. That was why he could appear in the forbidden area and scrupulously and stand in front of her to protect her. Their positions were different. Their way of living was different. She had no rights to persuade Zhu Wuxin not to work together with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness.